Welcome back to Hidden Power. This is a Pokemon podcast. We are always talking about Pokemon Legends ZA and Generation 10. Those are going to be the next games slated in the Pokemon series. But going a little bit further, I think it'd be great to turn our focus on the next Pokemon remake. Our guiding question today will be, what is the next Pokemon remake? That's what we all want to know today, and I think we can just get right into it. So this is going to be a super fun episode today. My name is DustyGogoat. I'm also joined by TraderLumi.
Hello.
And SoulSilverArt.
What's up?
Guys, I don't know why. I feel like we haven't talked about remakes in so long. It's been like 6 months.
It's been a minute.
This is gonna feel kind of like a classic Hidden Power podcast episode. I'm excited to kind of dive into this. Do you guys have any initial thoughts? Because I wanna jump right into this.
I think so I actually started the Pokemon franchise on a remake. My first Pokemon game was Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. So remakes hold a special little place in my heart, and I genuinely believe that like the potential of remakes is unlimited, because some of the best Pokemon games, like what the fans consider the best Pokemon games, are remakes. Like Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the first one that comes to my head. So many people say that is the best Pokemon game ever made. But then also, so many people think that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, those are often kind of hated on by a lot of Pokemon fans. So it's the range. There's
a big range, exactly.
Oh yeah.
I would even go as far to say, I don't know. I'm ready to get into this question, to dig into it, like what like a remake actually is, because for me, even like third versions are kind of a remake. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
They're kind of a remake, and to me, the third versions are kind of were always like the best versions. So
yeah,
I don't know. With remakes themselves, I've not had the best experience with them, I suppose, but
sure.
But that's what we're bringing, all different things to the table today, I'd say.
That is a real. I didn't even think about the third versions, but you are right. That does kind of. It's an advanced. It's a upgraded version.
Yeah.
Or it's an upgraded game based on a set of games that had already.
The thing is,
especially Sun and Moon, like Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they literally did the naming scheme where we're just going to take the original game name and just slap something in front of it, like Soul Silver, Heart Gold, Ultra Sun. You know,
I was going to say, even like in modern times, like now with the modern type of games that we're getting, like the DLC and everything, it feels very remake-ish. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So maybe we can start with this, right? So what do you guys think makes a remake good? You know, what's a good remake to you? Actually, let's take a step back. I got a definition.
We're starting with a loaded question.
Yeah. I got the definition of a video game remake right here on Wikipedia. And it is kind of cool that like the first image to show is Pokemon Red and Blue, and the remake Fire Red and Leaf Green. Mm-hmm. So a video game remake is a video game closely adapted from an earlier title, usually for the purpose of modernizing a game with updated graphics for newer hardware and gameplay for contemporary audiences. I think that is a pretty squarely perfect definition, right? I do think if you want to bend it, then third versions could make sense. The DLCs add additional content, but the core of this, and I do think earlier Pokemon games, right, when we started to get remakes and when they started to, the remakes, I think sold so well, they kind of became a staple and a predictable staple in the Pokemon series, right? I mean, the very first, Pokemon Red and Blue blew up. Gold and Silver, Pokemania. Generation 3 came out with Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, and they were popular, but not as popular as the first games, and they also excluded a lot of the Pokemon and features, and you couldn't actually connect those new games to the older games. And I think Fire Red and Leaf Green, the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes, had a very distinct purpose, right? It was literally the technology did not exist for the new games to, interact with the old games. So the existence of this remake pretty much allowed older players to interact with the newer games. And I do think that it's important. It also modernized these older games. I mean, Gen 1 and Gen 2 are filled with bugs notoriously, actually pretty famously. Mm-hmm. So to like right off the bat, the first remake is like, it's very utilitarian. It's like, obviously it's a cash grab. these are all it's a video
They're all
game.
cut.
It's a Pokemon game.
Even
They're all
the new
cash
video
grabs.
games are cash grabs.
Yeah.
you
But
know?
they are very like utilitarian. And something I wrote out a list of the remakes, and I do think over time, especially in the last 5 years, a lot of the remakes, I don't know how necessary they really are.
Yeah.
Right. Outside of a desire from a fan base to like replay an old game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like the only thing that really is like, I guess, requires the remake to exist is the fact that, you know, for me, I want to be able to play these games on modern consoles, right? Like I don't want, you know, I think a lot of people don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a game that came out 20 years ago, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
part of it. But I think what I'm trying to kind of touch on is that like a game like X and Y is already 3D, right? It's you know, it's definitely it's what is it, like 170, you know, it's got like a 170 or 120 resolution. Like it's a very pixelated game.
Yes.
But a game like Sun and Moon doesn't need a remake, right? It's already 3D. What would they do to make it 3D? What would they
I don't know about that
to make it a
But
remake?
I think that's a question of now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like likewise in Gen 2, nobody's sitting there saying, okay, well, Kanto needs to get remade.
Yeah.
But then Gen 3 rolls around. We've got color into the games now.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, yeah.
things are looking a little more lively. So now people are thinking, you know, okay, we need a Gen 1 remake.
Yeah.
And so I think like Sun and Moon, we're not thinking it right now because it's still, in terms of like the hardware, it's still like pretty young, you know?
Yeah.
And like in terms of technological capability, I guess. But
Yeah,
10
but they
years
could.
from now,
You're not thinking like they could just take it. You were probably about to say this, but they could just take it and put it into like the brand new. Let's say the Gen 10 engine
The
instead.
engine, yeah.
Which would be
yeah,
incredible. It wouldn't be just
Yeah.
like, you know.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think the other limitation, and maybe we're getting into the weeds a little too early, but like I think the other limitation with that. So this was the thing. Basically, old Pokemon remakes, you take an old game and you put it in the most modern engine, like literally the software that the game was built on.
Right.
You'd have similar graphics, similar assets are being reused. It feels. Yeah, you're truly taking the old experience and putting it in the most modern engine. And I think that was kind of consistent up until probably Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. That's the Hoenn remakes in the Gen 6 engine. But even then, I think that game actually looks a lot more polished than the other Generation 6 titles, X and Y.
Yeah.
And some
then
of that
after
could have
that
come
point-
from, it was X and Y was the first game on the 3DS versus Oris. They've had experience playing with that hardware now. I think the art style was a little different in Oris too. Like I think it was a little more chibi than X and Y's. Or am I?
Yeah, no, I think X and Y is very chibi.
It is, but I feel like
They all
Oris
got
was
big
a little
heads.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no images on this.
I don't-
Maybe a little less.
I think
Wikipedia
it's
page.
just a little
It was
more
a little
polished, I'd say.
Yeah.
It just feels better.
It does.
That's why.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the question then, because I think we're touching on something. But I think what really is at the heart of all this, right? When we're looking towards when would the remake be? I guess it would be the year after 2020. It would be 2027. It would be this year is Legends EA. Next year is Generation 10. 2027 would maybe be a remake year, and there could be something
Maybe.
in between there. But
It's definitely DLC year.
It could be 2028 though. 'cause
Yeah, it could be
2027
2028.
DLC for the Gen 10 game, and then 2028 a remake. They could do them both together.
Yeah.
Though. They could
Yeah,
do
we
DLC
talked
and-
about this in our video about like the future of Pokemon games, or what was it? It was it was all the Pokemon games on the Switch too.
yeah,
right.
And we just don't know. But like you just said, Lumi, the whole them throwing Legends into the mix is what confuses everything.
Yeah.
Because normally we'd be like, okay, it's going to be a remake in 2028 because that just DLC year is 2027 and 2028 is the remake year. But
Right.
with Legends in the mix, we're like, I don't know. They could do maybe the next Legends game is a Gen 5 game, and then they do the Gen 5 remake, same as BDSP and Legends Arceus. That's like a thought that I had. But yeah.
All right. Well, let's go back. So what do you guys think makes a good Pokemon remake? Right? because I think this is going to help us understand like what we're looking for in the next game.
I think, like what you said, where you're bringing it up to the modern hardware, but I think more than that, it's also about celebrating the original game, whatever you're sourcing this remake from, but at the same time acknowledging what has happened since, right? And I think we've got the picture here. I think Oris did this the best. That's not even me necessarily saying it's the best game, but I feel like it's the best blueprint of what I think a remake should be, because it brought it up to the modern hardware. You know, you're seeing Oris on the 3DS. You're seeing Ruby and Sapphire, rather, on the 3DS. It's a story about Groudon and Kyogre. But then they went ahead and went, hey, you know what? When you were playing Ruby and Sapphire, Duskull evolved into Dusclops, and that was it. No longer. Since then, we've introduced Duskmar. We've introduced Roserade. We've introduced this and that. And so we're going to put those in the game. They're in the decks, and you can get access to Duskmar here. Versus, like, Fire Red and Leaf Green wouldn't give you access to, like, Crobat or the evolutions you've had since until after you had beaten the Elite Four. And then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee completely, and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl completely removed any evolutions you've had since. Sylveon doesn't exist in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Electivire doesn't exist in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. So I think that was one thing that was special about Oris.
Well, I mean, Oris, it brought up, like, it included the most current battle mechanic, Mega Evolution.
Exactly.
It's also a 3D environment. For me, the biggest thing is that, like, gameplay wise, when you're playing it, it feels as intuitive as any other modern game, right? It feels as intuitive it feels more intuitive than X and Y, honestly. X and Y is a little clunky, I think, but they also added new things, right? Like, I don't know. I think what's most important to me, and the reason why I think people get frustrated with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, a little bit unjustly, and why I get so frustrated with BDSP, the Diamond and Pearl remakes, is that, like, they're not actually modernizing the game. They're just giving it a fresh coat of paint, but it still has all the same quote unquote issues, but they're really limitations. It's not like they could have, they could have added more content, but really there were just core issues of Diamond and Pearl that are not actually fixed in the remake. If we go back to the definition, right? You got to update graphics, but you also have to make it, like, adapted for the new hardware. You have to update the gameplay for contemporary audiences, and that's just not there, right? Modernizing a game. I don't think BDSP really modernizes the game. No, not at all.
It doesn't.
Right?
And, like, Oris 2 celebrated, I think, the features that were in Ruby and Sapphire by expanding on them. Like, the Mirage Island was something that a lot of people liked. We're going to take that even further. And there's all these different Mirage Islands. And, you know, by accessing them, you can maybe access legendary Pokemon. You can access Pokemon that you're not typically able to find. The Pokénav was a thing in Ruby and Sapphire. But now we're going to expand it, and it's a way for you to find rare Pokemon or hidden ability Pokemon. Like, they took those features and expanded on them. Whereas I feel like Diamond and Pearl, the best thing I can think that they did was, like, they did take the underground and expanded on it. But they removed then they also took some steps back in the underground. Exactly.
Well, you got to say they removed stuff from Oras too, right? So it was
what did they
remove? A give and take a little bit. No, Lumi knows. I didn't play these games.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you know, you could.
They removed the Battle Frontier.
Right.
Yeah, but even that wasn't in, like, we fault them for that because it was an Emerald, but truthfully, these are Ruby and Sapphire remakes, and those that didn't exist in it. But I do think ultimately the trade-off for Oris was so much greater. We were given a lot more than what
they built
taken,
on the lore.
Whereas with Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, I would say it feels pretty even what was given and taken, which means no upgrade. It means it's standing still.
People would argue with you.
Step forward in one area, step back in others.
People would argue with you a little bit. Not on BDSP.
It's opinion.
Yeah, not on BDSP, but on Oras, because a lot of people didn't like Oras because of the things that they took away. That's all I've read on the internet.
You should play it though, so I think you would. I think you would like it.
I mean,
if I could speak from my own perspective, like, I do remember being a little. I mean, obviously, I played through the game when it came out. I think I was in college, and I loved it. I was like, "This is awesome." Hoenn's one of my favorite regions. Like, very nostalgic. I love it. I do remember being a little triggered that they, like, just straight up changed, like, Mauville City is like a shopping mall.
Ooh, yeah,
that actually bothered me a little bit because I do remember you spent so much time in Mauville with it's kind of like an intersection point. It's a hub city, but there's also, like, a lot of, you backtrack through it quite a bit. to get to different parts of the region. So yeah, it's a hub city. You go through it a lot. So I have a lot of memories spending time in there, and to see that it's just like shifted so drastically did bother me a little bit just in the moment. That's one thing that stood out to me. And I also don't really love the 3D battles. I think I just like also enjoy the like how, and this is all subjective. I like the 2D pixel art battles. So to see that like that's just removed. I mean, what else am I going to expect? Actually, no. No. At the time, this was the first 3D remake we got, because Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Fire Red and Leaf Green were both pixel art games. So like the upgrades felt very like just natural.
Drastic.
They were drastic compared to like Gens 1 and 2, but they felt very natural for me and easy for me to accept. This game being 3D, I think it bothered me a little bit. But honestly, I'm looking at the gameplay right now in these images on screen, and I'm like, I'm due a playthrough. I really am due a playthrough.
It's a good game. I think something else that I just thought of while you were talking about that was I did like that they kind of gave more purpose behind things in the region. Like the first thing I think of is that in Ruby and Sapphire, there's this abandoned ship. And it's cool. That's so cool that you can like go explore a shipwreck. But then in Oris, they give it a name. It's the Sea Mauville. And there's a whole lore there. And you're able to catch Spiritomb there, and there's like a plot there going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that I appreciate that so much. It's again, I feel like, and in fairness, I did not have as great of a love for Ruby and Sapphire. In fact, I'm not positive that I feel like I played these games after I played Oris. So I can't really speak to how nostalgia worked for me there.
Right.
But I do feel like, having seen both games, I do feel like it did Ruby and Sapphire justice.
I think so too, man.
And every change it made was like justified.
I'm looking at Norman's gym right here, and I'm like, this is gorgeous. To see he's like in a dojo. It's really, really cool.
Right. That's where like the whole it being a remake comes into play, because you're replaying it, but that's like a whole new view of
but it's also respectful
I mean? Like,
of what came before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know what?
Sure.
So something that I'm always harping on is like, in my mind, right? My headcanon is like every game is happening simultaneously. I mean, I understand there's like the timeline that makes sense, but like when I'm playing, like I think I appreciate the remakes so much, because when I'm playing through Scarlet and Violet on my Switch 2, my shiny new Switch 2, I'm imagining the Hoenn region is out there. The Unova region is out there. Kanto is out there. What is happening in those games? And in my mind, when I'm playing through Scarlet and Violet in that engine, in that art style, I close my eyes, and while I'm playing the game, I open my eyes back up. I'm thinking there is I can imagine so clearly a Kanto game in the art style, in the world, with the mechanics of Scarlet and Violet. And in my mind, I think I could go there. There's a world where we get a game that plays like that. Obviously, I'm just saying that because it's the most recent one.
Yeah.
But I think these remakes have been so successful and so popular because they like keep the legacy. They keep the world alive for all these like classic games. I don't know if Gold and Silver would be so beloved. I mean, I love it, but I don't know how beloved it would be if Heart Gold, Soul Silver didn't exist, because I do think a lot of people who love Gold and Silver are also, for me, I'm also thinking about all the great things that are in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, right? Because that game brought Johto to life in a way that wasn't possible in the original Generation 2 titles.
That's another great example, too, of a game that I think celebrated what came before and expanded on it. It took things that existed in Gold and Silver, like the what's the device called there? Is it a Pokegear in that game?
Which game? The versus
Tech?
And Gold and Silver, device you have. It's the Pokenav
and
the
Pokegear.
Okay.
I think,
So the Pokegear, they expand on that and they go, we've got a way for you to play a radio wave that sounds like music from Hoenn, and it gives you access to some Hoenn Pokemon. Like, expanding on that feature in it, and expanding on, I'm trying to think of other examples. Oh, one thing they did, this isn't even like expanding on a feature, but one thing that was so cool about this game was the Game Boy sounds.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Key item that
that is cool.
where you could change the music in your game to be not Heart Gold and Soul Silvers, but Gold and Silvers, and that's so cool.
That is cool. That is cool. I don't know if that's. I mean, yeah, that's a nice little callback to like the original players. My main point is like, I do think a lot of the things, like when we, at least for me, it's been so long now. When I'm imagining the Johto region, I am imagining Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Heart Gold, Soul Silver is the game that is, or I guess Johto is the region that is. It's been the longest amount of time since we've like visited that region. I don't know if it's been 13, 14 years. It's been a long time. Mm-hmm, and obviously the original Gold and Silver will have a good place in my heart forever. But like, they just so many core enhancement, the following Pokemon, even just the environments. Like, I don't think we remember in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, like the world was kind of bland, you know? I think the art style is great and the Pokemon are great. And it will always be nostalgic. But like when I think about Lugia, like right here, Lugia in the Whirl Islands, this is not what it looked like in Generation 2.
You can look it up.
Yeah.
You can look it up. It's just like, I mean, I love it because it's nostalgic.
Of course.
So like when I think of it, it's just wild, but for me, it's a hard line to walk. I don't know if that's the phrase, but you know, it's just like, I don't know. I still love the originals just because of the nostalgia and the feel. And it's just like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they upgrade it in like a graphic way, but but graphical way, but it's a little different. The Lugia one, if you look up Lugia's at the Whirl Island, it's just Lugia's little sprite, which was amazing back then because Pokemon didn't get their own sprites. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
It was just like Lugia's sprite and then just some building or walls. Yeah, there you go, right there. Like that's literally what it was.
No, that was cool to see the Pokemon sprite in the overworld. That was a big deal coming off of like Gen 1.
You can compare it to the image right next to it there down below. Yeah. Like so like it's way different. Very different.
but
I love it, but also
I do too.
Like it's not the same, you know.
What I'm saying though is I think the value of these remakes are to take a thing that we love and modernize it. And I think there is a little bit of a problem that pops up with these newer games, if I'm giving Game Freak any slack, and I think this might be why they decided to kind of like, kind of deviate from just a straight up remake, right? Rather than, Diamond and Pearl, for example, rather than making Diamond and Pearl, recreating the game in a Gen 8 engine, they decided to do something. They definitely decided to do something different. Well, we got BDSP, but what did we gain? Then they said,
we got Legends.
Then they gave us Legends Arceus, which is honestly so cool, and now we got Legends EA. So, anyways,
it is cool, but it's not a remake. It might be a revisit to the region.
It is it's like spiritually a remake, but it's obviously not beat by beat, same story and time period.
I don't feel like it is because it literally chronologically takes place. It's either a sequel or a prequel, depending on how you look at it, to the events of Diamond and Pearl. Like Legends EA, that doesn't feel like it's going to be an X and Y remake to me. That's an X and Y sequel. That's like saying Black 2 and White 2 is a Black and White sequel.
Yeah, I think it's more like metaphorically or like beat by beat, narratively. There's a lot of the same things that happen in Sinnoh, in Diamond and Pearl and Platinum occur in... You could call Legends Arceus like a reboot, right? Mm-hmm. You could call it like a reboot if you wanted to, because it's a different story, but kind of the same vibes.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of see it, and maybe it's just because of the time travel component, but I always kind of see it like the way Avengers Endgame is to the first Avengers movies, where there's obvious heavy nodding to what came before it, to the thing that led to this, but it's not a remake of it.
There's a really good video by Taco. If you watch that, I think he makes a lot of really strong points, just kind of drawing all the comparisons. There's a lot of things that I didn't even notice.
I think he lost his cred after the XY magazine. I'm kidding.
I think you should watch it. It's a good listen.
I will watch it.
Listen.
I do believe in the whole idea of what Dusty's talking about, of it being the thing is, it's not technically a real remake. Obviously, what you're saying really is true. But even, I made a tweet about this recently about ZA. I feel like ZA is going to function exactly the same as Legends Arceus. And what it is it has themings or story beats that happen in the original games. And now they're being redone in a new way.
Different setting,
new characters, all that stuff. But the story beats kind of stay very similar, or they pay homage to it enough to the point where it's this is like a spiritual remake. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's kind of what we're getting at. Which
it's
not a remake, so we can clarify that it is not technically a remake of Diamond and Pearl.
We're not saying literal remake. We're saying it is a return to Sinnoh with a modern take, right? It's a modern take of a Sinnoh, the Sinnoh region.
Sure. I just get bummed out because I think maybe that's like the difference with us too is like both of y'all played the Gen 1, Gen 2, well, Soul, you didn't play the Gen 3 games. Nope. But, y'all were, like, there for all that. And I did not jump into Pokemon until Fire Red and Leaf Green. So, when I played... So, my first game was a remake, but it wasn't a remake for me. For me, it was a new game. Then Heart Gold and Soul Silver, same thing. I have not played a Johto game at this point. So, Heart Gold and Soul Silver was my first Johto game. Oris, still the same thing. I never played Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald.
That's wild.
So Oris was a new game for me.
Yeah, that's wild. So,
Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was
your
like
first remake.
First remake.
That's crazy.
And it was hilarious. A huge bummer. And not only that, but like Diamond and Pearl was my first Fire Red. I've got it right here. I was given to this by like a friend's brother. But with Diamond and Pearl, that was my first on Christmas. I open up a Diamond and Pearl DS with Diamond or whatever, and it's like this whole memory. And so I think it bums me out that game that was such a big part of my Pokemon experience, like one of my favorite games, my remake, I can't see it as Legends Arceus. I will always see it Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, which makes sense because that is the remake of the game,
right?
It is the technical remake of it, even though it's more of a reskin, like we were talking about earlier. Like, what defines a remake? Like, what did they do to make this, to remake it? All they did was just kind of put
this
it.
And I feel like, and I'm not even really hating on this game. If you like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, dude, I'm so happy for you. Genuinely, I am. But I think it goes back to what you were saying earlier, Dusty, where they did not do anything to. There were flaws. Every game has flaws. Scarlet and Violet has flaws. X and Y has flaws. Black and White has flaws. Every game has flaws. And I feel like when Oris revisited Hoenn, they went, let's address some flaws. Let's make it better. When Fire Red and Leaf Green went to Kanto, let's address, even Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I feel like made some flaws, and
they made choices. We might have not liked the choices, but they were making choices.
Didn't do jack crap to address the flaws of the original games, and they were very flawed games. Mm-hmm. Like, a lot of people consider Diamond and Pearl, I don't consider it this way, but a lot of people even consider Diamond and Pearl bad and Platinum good because Platinum fixed those flaws. So it's weird too that you had a game that fixed a lot of the flaws of it, but then 15 years later you make another game and you go, we've already fixed these flaws, but what if we didn't fix them?
And a common criticism I usually hear to this is well, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire are Ruby and Sapphire remakes. Heart Gold, Soul Silver are Gold and Silver remakes. But both of those games also took things from the third version. They took things from Crystal. They took things from Emerald. 100%. Yep. And they even went a step beyond and allowed you to have access to gift events that were not actually available in the base game, right?
Yeah. I see you've made it to the ad break. We would like to take a moment to thank all of you lovely people supporting the show. Not only those of you viewing, commenting, liking, subscribing, but those of you taking the extra step to become a member or a patron of this channel, directly funding the show. We thank you so much. I want to specifically give a special shout out to our mythical tier supporters: Ryan M. Fosiness, Coronet Highlander, Chris Adam Gibson, Tyler Low 15, Night Marcher Ogun, Case Astro Tempest, Sully the Skeleton, Doom Typhlosion, Hana's Dad, Travis Mashburn, NMT Arts, Ball Guy Leaks, Northender, and the Poke Kiddo 1. I want to give a special shout out to our Arceus tier supporters: Red, Lethal Randy, and SEH Art Gold, and a mega evolved shout out to our Game Freak Inc. level members, Bramtastic and Young Smokey. Thank each and every one of you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Our
goal is to have Lumi have to say so many names without breathing that he passes out. That's our goal.
I almost lost it there. I got a little purple in the face.
I know, you got a little flushed.
Yeah.
Guys, I can't say it enough. We say it every week, but you guys literally make this show possible. We are independent, and we are entitled to you. Entitled's the wrong word. We are indebted.
Indebted. Definitely.
Yeah, not indebted. We are indebted to you guys who put your money where your ears are at, and you guys literally support the show. We're able to hire a team of people. We're able to produce more weekly episodes with HP Live. We're able to produce Secret Power, our secret podcast, right? We're able to do all of this, right? And come back every single week with more and more content and energy because you guys are supporting the show.
Exactly. And that's the thing, too, is that, look, it does support the show, but you're not getting nothing out of it. There's so much that you get access to by becoming a member or a patron. You get a 10% discount on all of our amazing merch. You get access to our secret Discord. That's right. We've got a secret Discord with so many fans of the show and fans of the franchise like yourself.
So secret.
Where we're all talking, hanging out. There's even some big creators
it's like a secret
we've
base.
Had on the show in there. It is a secret base. That's exactly.
We all have our
plushies.
plushies.
Freaking explanation I've heard of it.
You guys should see my room. Just saying.
Yeah, but then we also, in there is the Battle League. We've got some gyms, an Elite Four, a champion that you can take on. And then,
we got a TCG Pocket League going on right now.
Yes, we do.
I got to battle Evan. I'm overdue for a battle against Evan.
Look at you.
And Hayes. Well, yeah, I'm going to kick your butt.
How good I'm not in it. I'm not in it, but how good are you doing so far?
I haven't had a single match yet.
All right, so you're undefeated is what I'm hearing. Come into the Discord so that you can beat Dusty's winning streak.
Yeah.
But also, most importantly, the thing that I love most, the thing that I find to be, in my personal opinion, my favorite perk of the show is Secret Power, which is our completely private, completely exclusive podcast where we, of course, talk about Pokemon, but even with some of your favorite creators, but we also talk about just other things. We've talked about Marvel. We've talked about Disney. Soul's eating a octopus on the freaking show. So
we plug that every episode. But do people really want to see us?
I think
octopuses?
So. That's what would make me subscribe. But there's so much more than just that. That was just one of the more wild moments. We've talked about like everything. You see how many creators have joined us for this. Also, right here, you're on Dr. Lava's extended interview. It's not just Secret Power. It's all these extended content, content.
We had to cut a lot out of that episode.
We've had to private all of it.
That episode was insane. We really do have so much content on here. It's kind of insane to me.
Uncensored.
And listen, all of that. Here's the thing. Here's the deal. And then we're gonna shut up. All of that content that we just talked about, right? $5 a month on Patreon, on YouTube. Your choice. $5, you get everything.
Yep.
But if you want to give a little bit extra, then we'll read your name on the show. That's our promise to you.
Mythical
thank you guys so much.
Your name gets read.
Absolutely. Literally, the show is not possible without you guys. Thank you so much. What was my little catchphrase that I used to say? If you believe in the show, or if you back the show, if you
believe in the show, then invest in the show. Something
if
like
you're
that.
If you're investing
in
the
there you
show,
go, that's it.
invest in the show. All right, guys. I think we've gotten like a lot of our gripes out of the way. Right. We've kind of talked about what we want to see.
We didn't talk about Let's Go Peek Your Nevi, but sure.
Yeah. That's true. But yeah, I think title of the video. What kind of game we want to see in the what remake do we want to see next? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll set this up by saying Fire Red and Leaf Green was the first, remake. That was a Kanto remake. Then we got Heart Gold Soul Silver, Johto remake. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire in 2014 was a Hoenn remake. Then we did not get a Gen 4 remake next. We got Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is what you're saying. That is another Kanto remake, and it's still very faithful. People will say it's like a remake to Yellow version.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do think that game modernizes the Kanto experience quite a bit. We give it a lot of hate because I think it's annoying to play single-handedly. Like, that's one of the things that just drives me up a wall. I actually think if you could play that game docked with both controllers, I don't think people would actually be so annoyed by it, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, whatever. We have full
controls.
Conversations about that.
Yeah. If there were
I think the
gestures, then sure.
I don't mind the gesture. I think the gestures are kind of fun.
I think the gestures are fun. My main thing was the removal of wild Pokemon battles, just in the sense that you saw with the birds and Mewtwo, you could defeat them and then it goes to the catching screen. I wish ideally that'd been how they done it, where okay, you can weaken the Pokemon, and once you go to bag and you click Pokeball, we're going to transition to this screen. And
they could have made it an option. They could have just made it an option. Do you know what I mean?
And then again, going back to what I said earlier, like while this did fix some of the flaws of Kanto, it did also, there were some things that I was a little upset about, like how this will always be my biggest gripe. You included we were able to get access to the Alolan forms of these Pokemon. I can trade with a character and get Alolan Ninetales, Alolan Raichu, but they wouldn't give me access to Crobat, Electivire, any of the evolutions beyond Flareon, Vaporeon, and Jolteon. Like, you know, it's, come on, you know, if you're going to modernize
that is pretty frustrating. Yeah.
Gave me access to a brand new Pokemon that I love, Meltan and Melmetal, but wouldn't let me access an evolution that's existed for 20 plus years, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think this is where it starts to deviate. I think the first 3 Pokemon remakes they kind of set the standard for what a remake should do. And I think what you're describing is what the standard was. And Let's Go Pikachu, and again, this is why I have less of an issue with Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. They're trying to do something very specific, and I think that's admirable, right? They could have just like made it like, I don't know. I look at Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee and I go, okay, what they're trying to do is literally just boil down the game to what made the Kanto playable experience so iconic. It's literally that, but then you have like overworld encounters and you have, following Pokemon, and everything is actually high resolution. And
it's a beautiful game.
They have a silly little gimmick, right? Which is definitely annoying. I think for what it is, it's fine. It's not a competitive game in the same way that like Legends Arceus is not a competitive game, right? So all of and I'm with you. As a fan, yes, I would love to have Electivire or something, right? In this game. I totally admit that, right? I think it would have been even cooler if they added new forms.
You go back to Kanto. Incomplete.
Yeah. Right. Like, I'm with you, but I guess I give it less flack because I'm just like, they weren't trying to do that. They're trying to just like preserve yellow version.
Like, did we even mention the fact too, not to go too far back, but did we even mention the fact too that like not only did Oris use the current battle gimmick Mega Evolution, but they handed out new ones.
Yeah, that's
wild. No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think they could have done more.
But I would have to say one thing about this, and this is putting us back on track, is that this is where the remakes deviated, right? Like, this is where it started changing. But I do think that this is because this wasn't meant to be just like another remake that is like in the pattern of doing remakes. Like, obviously it should have been Gen 4 if it was going to be one. Instead, it was this. I think from Game Freak, they were kind of trying to create something new alongside like the normal mainline games. Like, they wanted to make
Sword and Shield.
Yeah, they wanted to make a new like type of game, and that eventually became Legends. The Legends games, because this was like their first attempt at it. Basically, they were like, we want to make like a new genre of mainline games.
This was Legends 0.5.
Yeah, they were trying to create something different other than just a
and remake. They did that. Overworld, that's a really good point, Soul. Yeah. Like, where you have like this, like, I got an image of like you riding Onyx right now. There's a verticality to that we've never seen before. This type of ride Pokemon, right? There's the overworld encounters, the new gameplay. It's not really action gameplay, but it kind of is with the motion controls. The Pokemon can run away from you. That's a really good point.
It's more really interactive with you. Like, you're having to do more, kind of like in Legends. It definitely was a step there. And also, too, I think it's worth mentioning for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, this is probably, and hear me out here, this is probably the biggest cash grab of all these.
Yes, also that's true.
Not,
I don't think so.
But that's not me saying it's a bad game. But that's me saying
BDSP
the literal purpose. But the literal purpose of this was there was something super successful, Pokemon Go. We were in Pokemon Go
that's
Mania.
Another.
And they went, we have to capitalize this. There are millions of people who are playing Pokemon on their smartphone. We got to bring them over onto the Switch and get them on our turf, get them buying our games, So when I say cash grab, I think we have a negative connotation to that word, but I just mean in the sense that it was a big scheme to get more money, which props to them, absolutely.
I see all that, but I don't know if it was necessarily, I mean, obviously there was like financial incentive, but I think it might have been a little bit less like for a 1-for-1 kind of thing, right? Because I think what it actually was is that they wanted to tie the success of Go like Game Freak they wanted to integrate that with Game Freak titles, right? With Game Freak. And that is kind of what we saw, where it's like you could take, like, I do think the fact that this game exists and that you can bring Pokemon into your other games is the only reason why I play Pokemon Go. If that bridge wasn't crossed, I don't think I would actually.
You literally cannot get Melmetal unless you play Pokemon Go or you got that event through home, which I'm not even sure is still active.
Because people say this game is like for a baby, right? But like, that's not who plays Pokemon Go. But that's not who plays Pokemon Go. My 40-year-old brother-in-law plays Pokemon Go. He goes to Go Fest, right?
Yeah.
He's not a baby.
I saw an article about this recently. It was like about the Nintendo Switch 2 in general, and they were talking about how like they think that players look at a game that's really colorful and like grabby like this, and this versus Elder Rings looks really different. So they're quick to say, well, this is for baby. And Elder Rings or
because it's colorful.
That's for adults. That's a big boy game. The Last of Us, that's for me, but this is for babies. And it's like, no, just because it's colorful doesn't mean it's for the record. Like it's have
family friendly.
You have to read to play through these games. You
have to be at least 8 years old.
Have you tried the gesture controls? Because they're not for babies.
Right. Like I have a little brother. He loves Pokemon right now. He can't play this because he can't read.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think we gotta get back on track a little bit. We're having this is honestly a great conversation, but I feel like we're getting off track a little. Not really. We're not off track. Yeah. All right. So
you were going. So
basically, I think my biggest. I think the thing that I think Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was kind of just like a sign of the times, right?
Yeah.
This was the first Pokemon
100%.
game on Switch. Right?
Yeah, that was also crazy.
First Pokemon game on Switch, then we get Sword and Shield, and then we get all these other new remakes, BDSP, Legends Arceus. Pokemon had also experimented a little bit with like there's the remake of Mystery Dungeon, Rescue Team, DX. I guess it's not a remake. I was gonna say a remake of excuse me, Pokemon Snap, but that's not a remake. That's a new game. That's a new game. So we're just kind of stuck right now. The last Pokemon remake was in 2021. It's 2025 right now. We are getting Pokemon Legends EA. I think the big question is that a remake? Does that count as a remake? And it is a return. Legends EA is a return to a familiar region. And I guess the question is like, is that the path forward that Game Freak wants to take? Because if this is the idea that I had a year ago was, okay, they could just give us an HD port of X and Y, and functionally that would be, and then they could unlock maybe Magearna. They could unlock, a couple other, like, what is it called? Volcanion. They can unlock some of these mythical Pokemon, and essentially that is what Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is.
Mm-hmm.
Just an HD, like 3D port.
Yeah.
It's a glorified port. So I when I'm thinking about the next remake, I am excited for ZA. I think it's going to do a lot of really cool things. But I really am like, I yearn, I imagine what is going to be the next modern, generation, like the modern engine remake. What's going to be the next Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? Are we going to get the Gen 10 titles and then a remake in Gen 10? You could also say the DLC. I don't even think this is true, but like the DLC for Scarlet and Violet, we go back to Unova.
Mm-hmm. That's not a remake.
It's not a remake because we're not actually going back to like anything familiar.
Like, we don't go back to Unova. We go to a brand new place and they just say this happens to be Unova.
Yeah, But from my perspective, I think that does a lot for me. I think there's better ways to do it. Mm-hmm. Like if we actually went to Castelia and we could only stay in Castelia, that would feel like a little bit closer to what I would be happy to bargain with, right?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to go to the whole region. I'm excited about Legends EA because I'm like, if we can see at scale a fully fleshed out 3D city, cities are massive, right? You can spend weeks in a city and still not know a fraction of like what there is to experience in a city in real life.
Mm-hmm.
You make that a game, like we've never seen a Pokemon game ever like that. All we do is complain about how Scarlet and Violet makes the cities boring and useless and forgettable, and you can't go inside the buildings and you can't explore. Legend ZA is a direct answer to that. So
we hope.
I think it will be.
We need to hope that there's nothing like those cities.
Yeah. So what do you guys think would be the next remake?
What if I told you?
What do you think the next remake is going to be?
What if I told you it was going to be just like BDSP? What if it was like that? You know, are you saying you're thinking about past that? Like, if there was a BDSP remake, and then like, what's going to be the next remake that actually changes things? Like what you were saying, when the next Oras kind of remake. That's what you're asking.
Well, no, I guess I mean, if you think just like, what do you think the next
remake is going to be?
Real remake. I think even BDSP almost counts, but that's not as exciting.
It does. I do think it does count, even if we don't like what it did. It does count. It's very clearly supposed to be in line with those other ones. You can tell by the naming scheme, right? Like Fire Red, Leaf Green, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think what we were talking about, Dusty, like with the Legends games, I think those are like spiritual remakes, but they're not remakes. I think what you were just talking about with Legends ZA is more like, or even with the Scarlet and Violet DLC to Unova, that's more of a revisit to the region. Do you know what I mean? Like you're revisiting the region, but you're not replaying what happened in the game. So it's not technically a remake in any kind of way, you know? So that's really the thing. Like, I do think that Legends ZA will be our Kalos fix. That's what I am like envisioning, like a fix that we can get to have Kalos. But I don't think we're going to have an X and Y remake until a long time from now. That's my personal view of both. I think this is the fix of Kalos. Then we're going to move on to either Gen 5 or Gen 7. You know, like, I don't know.
Sure.
Or Gen 2 probably. So one of those over that. If I'm answering your question, I think the most likely scenario is that we actually just get Black and White skins. Like, which is the most disappointing thing. I hope that they watched our video.
Why do you think we're gonna get that next?
There's just been a lot of rumors around that kind of stuff, and also it seems like they are putting a lot of effort and value into these Legends games as like the new kind of game over making a remake with new content in it. It's more like we can just sell these other remakes that are reskins just for nostalgia's sake, and then we can actually put new things into these other Legends games that are more experimental, and we can do more with them. It seems like that's the track that they're on, but anything can happen. We don't have that much like backing,
especially with the subject of like, because like if it's Unova, I can honestly. So I think that's the thing. I think like we are kind of imagining that the next remake would be either Johto or Unova. But the interesting thing is both of those kind of put us in unprecedented territory, because with Johto has already been remade. So I feel like with them, they'd be more inclined to, instead of remaking Johto, because they've already given us a Johto remake, to do something like Legends Johto, do something that's going to change it up. And then with Unova, it's interesting too, because Unova is the only games that, instead of a third version, got a direct sequel. So it's like if you remake Black and White, there is so much content, so many characters, so many areas, so many parts of the story. It's literally directly continues the story of Black and White that goes untouched. So it's, you know, it's like both of those games are just so hard to, I think, imagine. Like, they're harder to imagine what a remake of them would be than it is for me to say, like, an X and Y remake, a Sun and Moon remake. It's easier for me to picture what that would be.
I think that's why it's exciting to me.
Oh, know? Definitely.
There's, like, potential there. There really is.
There's always potential, though. It's just, like, what they're going to do is completely different. This thing, though, it's like, what are they actually going to do? What makes the most sense, but also, what would Game Freak do? Because they don't really make sense.
Well, and I think...
Which is what I honestly like.
Game Freak do.
Well, what would you guys want though?
What I would want is like I would want Aura style. You know what I mean?
Just like I think Gen 10 engine.
Yeah.
Gen 10 art style, whatever the new thing 100%. Is. Open world. That's another thing. As these games grow in scope, right? We finally have an open world Pokemon game, right? And Gen 10 is going to be even. I mean, I've played Scarlet and Violet on Switch too. It actually looks good now. I've got a lot of promise and anticipation for Gen 10 now. I'm like, I think they could actually pull something off.
Yeah.
Anyways, podcast for a different day. But like, if Gen 10 really is going to be this massive, like, huge game, how do you make a remake in that style? Would they make, because you can make a 3D Gen 5, Unova region Gen 5 remake or a revisit to Unova, similar story maybe. But would it be open world?
Yeah,
would it be linear? Would it be it's 3D, but like is it going to have like massive scapes of space?
I've always seen someone suggest that like open segment would be real, like segmented open world would be easy to do because like you have the bridges and Unova, and each of them basically creates a section for you. Like your first section would be like Nuvema town, your starting town, all the way up the Skyera Bridge. Your second section is like Castelia, Nimbasa, the desert in between them, and the two routes before Driftvale and Marvelous Bridge. So you can see how it'd be segmented. I think for one, I think it's worth noting too, just kind of going back a little bit. Another thing we have to think about when we're thinking about a future remake is Game Freak even developing it? Because Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. The big thing about that game was that actually was not a Game Freak game. That was developed by Ilka. And so if there is another remake, is Game Freak going to develop it? Or is Ilka going to develop it? Or is another third party going to develop it? In fact, even now, we've seen that there is a company called Pokemon Works that is a mix of Game Freak people and a mix of Ilka people. And it's its own like little thing now. And they're developing things like Pokemon Champions. And so would maybe Pokemon Works handle the Gen 5 remake?
That's a huge reason why I was saying that we would probably get just like another BDSP Gen 5, because that company was made for a reason. They're still trying to accomplish what they were doing then. You know what I mean? With Ilka and BDSP. So like, I feel like they're just trying to improve on it. I think that if we do get a BDSP like Gen 5 remake, now that Pokemon Works is a mix of Game Freak, if it was them developing it, because we don't know, if it was them developing it, I think we'd get a little more than what BDSP was. A little more flavor, a little changes here and there, but nothing like crazy big. It would still be like somewhat faithful remake. But yeah, all of these reasons, that's a huge reason why I think it'll probably be something like that as well. What
would it be like?
Like BDSP. The black and white.
The Gen 5 remakes would be like BDSP.
But like a little better. Because they know they have heard the outcry from the fans. They know.
I think it's also worth noting too that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were the first Pokemon games since like I think Emerald to not introduce new Pokemon or new forms.
Well, it's because it was Ilka though. It was because it was Ilka.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So like it immediately, if I see Ilka slapped on it, I'm going to immediately assume there won't be anything new in it, because I think it makes sense. I think Game Freak is protective of their brand, as they should be. Nintendo as a whole is like kind of a company well known for being very protective of its brand.
That's a nice way to put it, but
after decades
it's a nice way.
Of it existing, we haven't seen a Legend of Zelda movie, right? But
that's coming. That's gonna happen.
I think though, with like Pokemon with Ilka, I think Game Freak would go, "You're not Game Freak. You cannot make new Pokemon. You cannot make new forms." I think they see forms as the same as Pokemon, and so the idea of Pokemon Works working on it does make me have a little hope that maybe they'd go. Unova doesn't typically have Terrastal in the game, but you know what? We're working on this game. We're going to throw Terrastal in.
We're working on it with...
And because of that, Zekrom and Reshiram, they get special Terrastal forms like Ogerpon, Terapagos,
I kind of think Pokemon Works was like created... Like, obviously, BDSP were successful. They're developed by this other third-party company.
That's another thing, just to
quickly
say, they sold really well. They were really... well-selling games. They were successful games. Anyway, continue, please.
I think the reception was different.
Yes.
But I kind of feel like Pokemon Works, part of that was like a way for them to absorb truly to absorb and kind of like lessen any sort of, I don't know. I feel like Ilka became this like punching bag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Game Freak has put out bad games. Game Freak's always the punching bag, but like the games end up still selling well. There's still always good things about the games. And because Ilka was such a punching bag, I feel like it was kind of a PR move to absorb Ilka.
It was.
So no longer will Ilka be the cover of in the credits. Instead, it'll just say Pokemon Works. And if you like Pokemon, what you do, that's not the punching bag. Right. Pokemon Works won't be the punching bag. It'll just be like, I guess this is just a mid game. I feel like when there is a scapegoat, that can kind of encourage more negative reception.
Yeah, people
because
won't buy
there
it
is
much.
Something to just
you can look at what is it? Oh my gosh, I want to say side quest, but no, it's like side games. Whatever they're called, like New Pokemon Snap. Like you can look at those kind of games and be like, okay,
sure, they're lesser, maybe not as popular.
Right. People are not going to buy them because they're not made by Game Freak, basically. So people might see Ilka, like if they were doing, Ilka was doing a remake of Black and White, they would be like, oh, I'm not buying this. I just did BDSP and it was terrible. So I do want to say though that Lumi brought up a good point. It might not be Pokemon Works though, even though we just talked about all that. Yeah. It could be any third party. It could be a completely different, and that's a whole nother scenario. We're speculating.
Or Game Freak themselves.
Yeah, we're speculating here. It would be great if it was Game Freak themselves. I have my doubts because I think that they want to work on other things. But
especially, they're working on a lot of things. I mean, we know they work on the main, like, Gen 10, Gen 9, whatever it is. They work on the Legends games. And then even now, we've seen Beast of Reincarnation, like a whole non-Pokemon thing they're working on,
Yeah, something about Beast of Reincarnation, though, that I didn't even know when we did our first coverage, is that it seems like Beast of Reincarnation is really only spearheaded by, like, 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
Sure.
By Game Freak, and then everyone else is outsourced. So, those aren't resources being taken away from Pokemon.
Yes.
No, they're not being taken away from Pokemon, but I am saying, like, this company's already got their hands, even if it's just their pinky finger in that pocket or whatever. They've got their hands so many different outlets. It is like it does make sense from their perspective to go, dude, we're managing everything. Like Pokemon Works is working on Champions. I think our idea of Champions is that that's going to be like a game that's going to see updates throughout its life and stuff. And that Game Freak is involved with that. It's Pokemon Works, which is part Yoka and Game Freak. So they've got that. They've got Pokemon Scarlet and Violet or Gen 10, whatever that game is. They have the Legends games to worry about. They also, really, when you think about it, they have to be watching Home closely too. Even though Home is not Game Freak, it's Ilka, it's directly impacting their games. So they're having to kind of make sure they're staying on top of Ilka about that. So they just have so much they're doing. It makes sense why they, So Black and White Remake, we've got the formula. We can hand it to another company, and they can just copy paste.
All right. So if I'm doing some wishful thinking, because earlier you were talking about, and this is the biggest question mark, right? It's like, are they going to remake Black and White? What happened to Black and White 2? Would they maybe make a Black 3, White 3? None of that could happen. But if I'm doing a little bit of wishful thinking, isn't it weird? So this is what I'm thinking. We're all talking about Black and White as if that's going to be the next remake. But Game Freak has already said, no, actually, after the Gen 4 remakes, we're doing Gen 6 remakes. We're doing a Gen 6 content with Legends EA. They're already out of order. Who's to say they don't do a Gen 7 or a Gen 8 return, or they go back to Johto?
Right. That's very
so my wishful thinking. If everything's lined up perfectly, listen, this is maximum copium. All right. Lock in. If
we're officially in speculation
make sure,
mode.
if you're driving, just pull over. You're going to want to hear this. All right. What if Game Freak decided to do Legends EA as kind of a because it's like conceptually smaller in scale. They're working out some like new technology in Legends EA with the battle system, right? It's kind of smaller in scale because it's literally just one city. What if they are waiting until a stronger engine, stronger game system with the Switch 2? What if they're waiting because they're doing so much work to actually make? What if I don't even know, dude? I'm just imagining, like, what if they went out of order with these remakes with the remake cycle because they actually. Game Freak, not Ilka, not Pokemon Works, wants to go all in with Black and White and flesh out this region. I think this is one of the most, I think Unova is one of the most vast regions that we've even been that we've even seen. We've seen 2 different versions of it, and in both games, they drastically expand the different locations you can go to. You can really see the size of this region.
It's so pretty too.
It really is. And as someone who, the game's already set up as we have 1, we have number 2. I think all of our brains say, where's number 3? I think also as someone who lives in New England, it's just like, it's infectious. I can't get it out of my mind that there's like, if this region, Unova, is based on New York, you have all of New England that could potentially be, worked on. You could also I think the region also embodies America in general, or like North America in the United States. You could expand that in so many different ways. You could take inspiration from Canada. You could take inspiration from anywhere else in the country. You could take inspiration from Mexico. You could take inspiration. I love it. New England. You could call it New Galar or Neo Galar, right? There's so much potential. Yeah. But what I'm imagining, just looking at this map, is that like, my question is there a reason that Game Freak passed Unova to focus on Gen 6 on a much smaller scaled game? It's a Legends game, so that in Generation 10 we get to we get a game that's maybe we return to full open world modern Pokemon remakes. What if the Gen 5 remakes are similar to Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? They are truly modern engine remakes.
Right.
Is there a world where that happens?
I was thinking about this when you brought it up earlier. For me, I think we get into like some nitty gritty like rumors and things about people having leaked things, and I don't want to go too much into that just because we don't know what that really entails. But there's a whole there's lore basically. There's lore on these Gen 5.
You're saying there's just been like for like a year and a half that we've had
even
Gen
more
5 remakes.
Yeah, like for 2
speculation
for 2 whole years. Yeah, for 2
2 and a half. It started during like the DLC for Scarlet and Violet's hype cycle was when we first started hearing about it.
So you could go back and like piece that all together. I have like a mental, like when you're talking about that stuff, like things pop up in my mind. Oh, well, this is what happened with, so we have like a history of this black and white remake going on that is behind the scenes. All of that aside, they could have thrown all of that out, and your situation, what you're talking about, could be true. I mean, there is a world where after Gen 10, they do this open world Gen 5 remake. And to me, that's possible. That is possible. But I think that it would take like all of Game Freak to do it. Like they would all work on it, if that makes sense. I don't think that it would be like,
this would be a big game.
Yes, it would be huge.
This would be a big game.
For me personally, I would say that it's not going to happen. I would love for it to happen, but I think the more realistic thing would be like that image that you had pulled up earlier of like the black and white remake of, yes, that. I think if there's a Gen 10 engine black and white remake, that they will not make it open world, but that it'll just be on the same routes, but the routes will be like, I don't know.
The routes are wider.
Yes.
There's wild Pokemon roaming.
Exactly.
Yeah, like Sword and Shield level.
That's how I see them doing modern remakes. Because if that's the question we're getting to, like a modern remake, I think they still will remake the game the way it originally was. I don't think that they will do an open world version of it unless they are trying to like do something huge. Like, you know, so like there is no Legends game. There will not be a Legends game in Gen 10, you know, like in the Gen 10 thing, because this would be the big game. They'd be like, okay, we're remaking all of Unova, and it's going to contain Black and White 2 content as well, and it's going to be
the
a whole
Pokemon,
remake.
the characters, the locations, the regions,
and it's going to be open world. So like that's
and it would be a fusion. And because this also what I'm imagining. No, I love that because I was going as big as possible, but realistically, what's the smaller version of that? It's just a 3D. It's the 3D map of Unova, right? It's the full 3D map, and maybe some more, right? And I think this wouldn't actually be called Black and White 3. It wouldn't be Black 3 White 3. It would just be it would be titled a remake.
Yeah, but
it's kind of, the rumor was a year ago. I don't even know if this is a rumor or just a fun idea, but the idea we were playing around with was Paradox Unova.
Yeah.
Remember that? Well, and the idea is that it's not Paradox Pokemon, but it's just a alternate version of the Unova region, which is honestly every remake that we've ever received is an alternate. It's a Paradox.
Yeah. Or
it's an alternate version of the same story.
Certainly.
Let's go
it's Ruby
Pikachu
and Sapphire,
and Eevee.
but let's throw Megas in it. You know,
Exactly.
The thing about that is that does play on like the whole ORAS thing that we really want. That I want that so bad. Like whatever the gimmick or the theming of the main game of the generation is what would be in the remake. So like Megas was for X and Y, and so then it was for ORAS. Same thing would be that was for Gen 9, but since we now know that a Gen 5 remake would come out in Gen 10, so it would be whatever the Gen 10 gimmick is, whatever the Gen 10 themes are, would be brought into this hypothetical black and white remake.
Yeah, that's great. But first, I gotta tell you guys about our classic, our best selling merch collection, Hidden Legacy. This is a beautiful design by our in-house guy, Noivi, aka Anthony. This man is a legend, but he whipped up this gorgeous design for us. It comes in a variety of colors, and on the back of the shirt, this design encapsulates all sorts of inside jokes, and I guess not even jokes. They're not jokes, but they're just they're things that are, I guess, what's the word? An ode to, right? In legacy to, or in respect of. Come on, guys, help me out.
They're all I'm
drowning
things
over
that
here.
are important to us. I mean, just look at it. You've got mons that we hold dear, right? You've got Soul's Ultra Necrozma. You have my Dragonite. You have Dusty's Cherubi even on
Bro,
there.
We need a solo Cherubi shirt. I gotta talk to Noivi about that. Honestly, I kind of forgot about this, but you got the Pokemon Snap camera up top. That's a classic Hidden Power moment right there. And at this point in time, both Soul and I have played a little bit of Pokemon Snap. So this is kind of a retro design at this point, being a thing. But anyways, this, like I said, this last summer, we had this created to really just kind of like capture not only the legacy of this show, but also just a lot of the designs, but also the colors that we chose were really in service to or meant to remind. They're in the spirit of the summer, right? To me, it reminded me of when we designed this. I was in Maine. I was on the coast, right? I'm living it up. Summer nights, I'm living it up with the sea breeze in the air, right? Sand in my toes, right? What's that old song? Sand in the my bum's in the water, in the sand, toes in the sand,
toes in the water, bum in the sand.
Oh yeah. You know, well, who sings that?
Is this
is that Jimmy Buffett?
It sounds like a Jimmy Buffett song.
I don't think that's Jimmy Buffett.
No, who is it? Anyways, whatever. It was a gorgeous summer. Band? Yes, the Zach Brown band. And this, listen, summer's upon us, and I'm so excited to get back into the vibes of the summer. I'm really excited here on the East Coast to enjoy the summer, and I hope you are too. If you guys want to support the show, if you want something more tangible than just a Patreon membership, if you want something more tangible than just like some extra episodes every single month, you can go to shop.hiddenpowerpodcast.com. Links are in the description to go to this website, and you can get yourself some new Hidden Legacy merch. We have the shirts. It also comes in a sweatshirt. We should make a ball cap. I don't think we've made a ball cap of this design yet, but we also have a stainless steel bottles available. And yeah, I just love this whole collection so much. There is, of course, so many other designs on the store, so feel free to browse around and get something for yourself, get something for your spouse, or I guess you could say significant other if you're younger than 30. And thank you guys so much. And let's get back to the show.
Kind of thing.
I think too that's kind of an interesting thing about the Unova remakes is that we first started hearing these rumors again. It was in like the Scarlet and Violet DLC hype cycle, so that was 2023.
Yeah,
and a lot of the basis for that I think came from the fact that the Scarlet and Violet DLC had us return to a part of Unova, the Blueberry Academy, and you even met characters who were related to characters from the original games. We like hard confirmation Lacey is Clay's daughter, hard confirmation Drayton is Drayton's grandson, and I think they even kind of reference some other characters. I want to say that there's a Lenora reference at some point, but I'm not sure. Either way, there's references to Unova.
Oh, there's a whole bunch in the that thing at the end where you talk to the characters. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, and the the club where you can call trainers in.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a bunch there. But the interesting thing about that is, like, it would have made sense if we heard Paradox Unova, and we know that Paradox is tied to Terrastool. Terrastool is, all of that is, like, all connected. And so it would make sense from a lore perspective if a Unova game would have Terrastool in it. And my logic here is that Scarlet and Violet, that takes place in Paldea, and we know that the origin of Paradox Pokemon, the origin of the Terrastool phenomenon, all comes from Area Zero, that crater right in the middle. It's one isolated place, but that gimmick has spread across the region. So likewise, I think that an interesting thing about one of the characters we met in the Scarlet and Violet DLC is that Briar is obsessive, and, like, to the point she endangers you and your friends to go into Area Zero so she can study something that her great grandfather or whatever was studying. And she admits, like, I got obsessive, that's my B. She brought stuff back from your journey in Area Zero to the Blueberry Academy. So, like, it would make sense that just as it spread across from Area Zero across all of Paldea, it could spread from the Blueberry Academy across the Unova region, Yeah, and then you have the whole stuff of Paradox Pokemon being from alternate realities, and you have the Dream World connections in Unova and the Interlink. Like, this region is screaming to be, like, involved with the Terrastool and Paradox stuff.
That brings up a really good point. Like, I know this is what you're getting to, but I had just said that whole thing that it should be after Gen 10's, like, gimmick, but what you just said makes so much sense. If they did a Unova remake, they could bring it all back. They know that Terrastal was, like, a great battle gimmick. Like, after a generation's, like, so let's say two years of the new gen, like, they just bring back Terrastal in a Unova remake. With, like, all of that lore, that'd be kind of epic. And that's something Game Freak would do, where it's like, we're expecting it to be this new thing, but instead it's we went back to something else that you weren't ready for, and there's, like, new forms or something, like something like that.
Especially because we have champions, which is a lot of people are speculating champions could be at some point the VGC hub, and what Game Freak can do with that is, if all that we know Terrastool and Mega Evolution's in it, it's being speculated that Dynamax and Z-Moves will also be in it. But if Game Freak has all the gimmicks there, they can easily just run different regulations through it and, like, say, okay, guys, from now through the rest of this year, we are only allowing the use of these 600 Pokemon, and you can use Terrastool and you can use Mega Evolution. You cannot use Dynamax, you cannot use Z-Moves. So it makes sense that when Gen 10 rolls around, it'll be just the Gen 10 gimmick. And then now we're welcoming back Terrastool, your favorite gimmick, because that is the fan favorite gimmick amongst the competitive fans.
Right.
We are welcoming back the Terrastool gimmick along with this game that highlights it.
Yeah, it's a good speculation right there. I don't know if
just like now they're doing that with Megas,
Champions,
Yeah.
Do we know where Champions takes place? Is it going to be like a new region?
We know nothing.
What if it takes place in Unova at the Pokemon World Tournament?
That'd be awesome,
dude. Imagine.
There is the whole thing. So, like, getting off of Unova a little bit, there is the whole thing that people have said that, like, Blueberry Academy was our Unova remake, like, not technically, but in the sense.
No, but it's a reference,
like, right. I mean, like, that was our revisit to Unova, and, like, we're not doing anything else with Unova. Like, it's just, it was that, and so who knows? Maybe they make champions in Unova as well.
Yeah.
But then, we never get a Unova remake, and that's just it. And I don't know.
Maybe
because it was the worst selling like mainline game. In general, I don't know if Game Freak wanted to. We have talked about this before. Just like, I don't know if Game Freak wanted to make a remake. I mean, I think they did.
Yeah, that definitely could have been a thing. Into that basket, right? Like, surely they don't want to make an open world Unova and put all their resources in this and it be the big game.
Yeah.
When it is,
there's no nostalgia.
On paper,
but I think
it's not going to do as well as the other things,
But I think if they expand on it, like if it takes place in Unova. It takes place in Unova. We see all the familiar things. Maybe it's like Legends where it's like 20 years later or something, or 10 years later. But then it's like you could add new locations. You could also add new regional forms that just have appeared in the region. You could add new Pokemon in the region. I mean, I don't know why I don't know why can that
new
not be
Paradox Pokemon, man? If we're talking about the terrestrial stuff, then there could be Paradox Pokemon there.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm in no way expecting any sort of Generation 9 stuff. I would be happy to be wrong because you're right. There are so many connections that could be made. But I at this point, I'm like, if this game, what I'm imagining, if it comes out in Generation 10. We're on to something new. We're doing Gen 10 gimmicks.
Yeah, but I think you have to think about like the origins of this rumor was that the first thing that was said was that this game was going to be in 2024. We were going to get Unova remakes. And this was said by Ku, and I know that he's got some shaky credibility.
Especially in this time frame. Especially in this time frame.
Give me the breakdown of like why we think Gen 5 is going to happen. Based on rumors. Like, give me a breakdown on the rumors.
Because like I said, in 2023, Ku first teased that they were working on Gen 5. Like, he even said, the Indigo Disc, which is the Blueberry Academy, that is a, like, tease at what's coming, which is Gen 5. Then on 2024, he seemed to be really, before Pokemon Day, really hammering home Gen 5. And then interestingly, because I know people hate Ku, and that's totally fine, but interestingly, Pyoro, who has an amazing track record, like the week before, he said, and admittedly, he said, I'm not positive on this, but everything I've heard is that there is going to be a Gen 5 remake. Mm-hmm. So
Pyoro said that.
Mm-hmm. Pyoro said that. And he admitted, I'm not confident in this, but this is what I have heard. And so it's just interesting that you have two people who have, at least at some point, had an amazing track record with leaks, and they heard the same thing. And the idea now is that, because I believe it was always said that this game was going to be related to the Nintendo Switch 2 specifically somehow. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I think people are thinking, just like how we had a leak that detailed the DLC for Scarlet and Violet and said at the end of this year, Nintendo's releasing their new console. So at the end of 2023, Nintendo's releasing their new console, and we're getting a patch for Scarlet and Violet that will make it run better on it. The Nintendo Switch 2 didn't launch in the end of 2023. It ended up launching, just a little bit ago in 2025, and they did that Scarlet and Violet patch. So I think people's idea now is that this Unova game was planned, but because the Switch 2 got delayed, this game also got delayed. We know that right now we're in a 4-year gap cycle, which is unprecedented for Pokemon. Legends EA is coming out this year. It makes sense that one of those years could have been the Unova remake, but because of the pushback of the Switch 2, it just delayed Pokemon's entire schedule. So now this black and white game is sitting on a shelf. Ku has teased, this was December 31st of last year, so right before the new year, he teased that, they are still working. It looks like he's teasing they're still working on Black and White Remake. And my thing is, though, if this is the same game, that's why I'm thinking it would have ties to Scarlet and Violet or to Terrasoul. Because, are they going to go back in and edit their game to completely not have any of that? Maybe they would. I don't know. I'm genuinely asking.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
We don't know. But that is like the lore of it all, is that it changed many times was like delayed, and it does have direct connection to the Switch 2, which was delayed multiple times, not just the one time that people know about. I do trust Ku on all of this stuff. That's just me personally, but like things behind the scenes that we don't see happen, where it's like it's not official, it's just things are getting delayed, things are getting moved around, things are getting cut, things are getting changed. That kind of stuff happens. It's on him that if he's the one that said it before, before it was concrete, he should probably he probably shouldn't say anything until like something is officially happening. Which instead it was kind of officially happening. It's just that it had to get changed for some things. That's what I believe anyway. So with all that being said, you never know what happened to it. Like, it could be cut completely. It could be like, wow, the Nintendo Switch 2 messed up everything, and now we're just going to start from scratch.
And again, I
guess it could have released last year, right? It could have released in like November.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what Ku and Pyoro said that they had heard. And again, that's what I want to hammer home, because I know so many people, I see our comment section all the time. When we mention Ku, there are so many people that dip out, and that's totally fine. But it wasn't just Ku. It was Ku and Pyoro. Like, come on, guys. That's a little weird,
Yeah, and there were other people talking about it too, not just them behind the scenes.
I trust Pyoro.
Right.
Yeah, so, but yeah, that's the like little history about it all. I don't know where you were at with the questioning, but yeah, I'm trying to think.
So this image right here is the latest thing from December. I don't know, I'm kind of looking at this and, spoiler alert. A lot of people are expecting Generation 10. Spoiler alert. Maybe skip ahead just like 10 seconds. That it's going to be like an aquatic region.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, couldn't this just be a reference to an aquatic region?
I don't think so, because for one, he's saying that was not exposed from the Terra Leak. Gen
but
10
did we really
was
learn
exposed on the Terra Leak.
Did we really learn anything about from Generation 10?
We
got code names.
Dolphin.
What did we get from Generation 10? Because we got code names
that
we
getting into some very hard leaks if we talk about that.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. I don't think
I don't think we really
know about Gen 10.
Yeah.
I don't think we really know that much. I think we're doing a lot of interpretation.
There's a lot more from Gen 10 that just isn't public. Like the Terra Leaker intentionally kept close.
Sure.
But I think the dolphin though is actually like Ku, because look, here's the thing, Ku is a bit of a troll, and I don't mean a troll in the sense that he straight up
this
lies,
dolphin
but in the sense that he does like to kind of make your mind go one. He's a riddler, right? He wants to make your mind go one way, and you have to train your brain to like try to see around the illusion he's creating.
Because you look at the dolphin, and what do you think? The dolphin is colored. It looks like an orca. It's black and it's white. So like,
yeah, it's a Conversance dolphin. It's
we're all expecting it to be black and white,
but I think the dolphin is the tease, because dolphin sounds similar to Aruka, Ilka. And so I think it's like his way of like teasing, like making people think, oh God, it's an Ilka remake, but it may not be,
But what feels
like a stretch.
Isn't the dolphin? Wasn't it the code name of BDSP? It was either code name BDSP or like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. It was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
I don't know. One of them was Blue. Yes, it was Delphus for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
There you go, Delphus for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. Yeah. That's why.
I think.
All right.
Pikachu and Eevee was Beluga.
No, well, Delphus comes from is from Dolphin.
Yeah.
So there you go. I swear there was another one, but I can't.
So black and white.
Let's go.
That feels pretty good. Well, I mean, in your heart of hearts, like, I mean, I guess what other regions do we have? We have. Listen, I guess should I monologue about Kanto?
No, I was gonna bring up Johto. I mean Kanto. You've said multiple times.
I feel like it has to be Unova or Johto, and for the record, Johto would be Kanto.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So for this episode, my pitch is every Nintendo console has had a version of Kanto, a playable Kanto experience, a new one on system, right? Playable on system. The last one was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which was very faithful, and that was on Switch. And now that we've entered the Switch 2, which is kind of it's kind of the same console, but it is a new console. Like you can play Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, and you can play all the other Switch Pokemon games on your Switch 2. They're all going to be on the shelf at the store. They're all going to be in the eShop together. I feel like we are due for another Kanto game, and the reason why it kind of excites me now is because and listen, I think a Kanto game would include Johto is kind of the pitch, but I think why this is actually exciting and why fans should be excited is that the faithful remake Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee has already been done. There's no world where they go, let's make Let's Go Cubone and Vulpix. Like, there's no way that we just get another basic Gen 1 Kanto game, right? Top-down, linear. We're not getting that. We're not getting that because that game already exists.
I wouldn't say it's impossible
on Switch 2. I think it's impossible. I think those two games, if they're going to, this is what it is. If they make a Kanto game, there's no point in redoing the thing that is still like available in the eShop to purchase on your new Switch 2, Yeah.
I think that'd be a reason that we don't go to Kanto at all, though, because like with the 3DS, there was no Kanto game because you could play Kanto on Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So likewise, I'd say like with the Switch 2, you don't need to because you can play Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
So I think what happens is we get I don't know if it's going to be marketed as a Johto game or a Kanto game. I don't know, whatever makes the most sense for them. Maybe it's a Johto game. But if it's a Legends Johto game, if it's an open world Johto game, even if it's just a remake, we're still going to Kanto. And I feel like
I don't think that's necessarily
I don't
true.
think
If it's
Kanto
a
has more weight.
remake, but if it's a Legends Johto game,
it's Legends,
I think we love the
No.
idea of them merging the two regions.
But that's
dude,
what
if
they've
it's
always
a Legends
been.
game where it's this big, expansive region,
no,
it's
because
it is-
Johto's
I
only.
think that is the Pokemon fan, like the typical Pokemon fan thing.
No,
we
it's
do,
no.
Where we hope for so much more than it probably will be.
Listen, I'm not hoping for anything extra than what that was given in Gold and Silver.
Yeah, but
Johto was only when Johto was introduced. Johto is always in conversation, literally, culturally, in world, out of world, like with Kanto. Kanto and Johto share an Elite Four.
that's like the very reason why it would be separate because
Right.
every time it is. So here's the thing.
No,
If
every
it's Johto-
time we see Johto, it's with Kanto. Therefore, that's a pretty normal thing to expect.
If
But I
there's a
think with
Johto,
Legends game, it
if there's a
would be that
Johto
way.
Legends game, think about it. We are doing Pokemon Legends EA is in one city of Kalos. The rest of Kalos, which is always talked about when you talk about Kalos, is not present.
Right.
It is
The
just
sundial
Lumio City.
is not present.
Yeah, it's
No one's
just
thinking about the
Lumio
sundial.
City.
People are talking about Lumio City.
People
That was like
think
the
about
biggest thing.
I mean,
The first
the Tower
trailer.
of Mastery, the sundial, all
Who's
of this.
excited about? Like maybe if you
I
play it for the
am.
first time. Yeah, but the image
Who's
of
excited about Kanto?
the image of Kalos was always the Lumio's tower. The very
Listen, though,
first trailer,
no, I
Pikachu
can't-
is on the tower.
I
And is
cannot
going,
abide
"Pika,
by
Pika."
this.
Yeah, and
That's
the very
true.
image of Johto is usually like Ekruteak City or the Bell Tower, not Kanto.
Listen,
No, but they share
Kalos-
an Elite Four.
Kalos is not even my favorite game, but I am saddened that it is just in Lumio City.
Right.
I wish that it was in the whole region. Like, that's crazy that we're not getting the whole region, to be honest.
And again, I want to be clear. If it's a Johto remake, I think absolutely Kanto will be there. But if it's
Yes.
a Legends game,
Yes.
I think that it will be purely Johto. I think, for one, you're talking about, they share an Elite Four. Elite Four is irrelevant to a Legends game. You don't challenge the Elite Four in a Legends game. They don't care about that.
No, but I feel like the two regions are in conversation.
They are in conversation, but I mean,
everything that people
that's
complain
like
about
saying
Johto.
when we have Scarlet and Violet Legends games, we're going to also go to Kitakami and we're also going to go to Unova. No.
Yeah, true.
No, I don't think it's the same. I don't think it's the same.
Similar, not the same, but
Yeah.
You have to get
Yeah.
on a plane to do those. Those two regions border each other. It's also
Just like
Kanto.
Sinnoh
It's
didn't
also
have the
Kanto.
fight island. Like the Hisui didn't have the fight
Here's the
island,
thing.
the resort island, whatever that's called. The battle zone, I think is what it's called. It didn't have that in it,
Here's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like Johto exists again in conversation with the Kanto decks. Half of the Johto decks is evolutions or baby forms
it would be
of
changed.
the
It would
Johto
be
Pokemon.
changed.
The Johto legends are like Ho-Oh is the what is it? The tier I guess no. Lugia is like the trio master of like the
That's
of
not-
the
that's
Kanto.
not in-game
That's
canon.
really kind of just like
Yeah.
an anime.
Mhm.
The closest we've ever gotten to that in the games is you do have to catch the birds to get access to Lugia in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
I think
But
that's
it's
your
not.
answer.
But for one, that's not even a game for game. For two, that's the first time they've ever done it. And
No,
for
you have to
three,
do that in
there's not
Oraz
like a
as well.
story reason. They're just
In order
like,
to get
you get
Lugia,
it.
in Oraz, you have to
Do
that
you?
happens plenty
Okay.
of times. Yeah, that's
It's
I
a
think that's
nod to it, though. It doesn't mean that he's the trio master. Like, has to be.
I don't
the
think you
first
do have to get
Pokemon you
them
catch in Johto are all Kanto Pokemon. That's like all everyone.
No, you
anyone
don't.
ever
You don't have
complains
to
about
get
Johto.
the birds to get Lugia and Norse. You do it
No,
on the
no,
same
no.
Marvel.
I don't know. I've never played it.
I think there's some games where you have to catch the birds.
That's only
Or
Brilliant
one of
Diamond
the
and Shining
birds.
Pearl. That's only Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl.
Okay.
Either way,
that
the
is
point-
that is canon. That
the point
BDSP
still-
is canon.
yeah, the BDSP is canon, but whatever. It is also Ilka, so is it canon? I don't know.
It's
Anyway.
shaky canon.
Yeah,
I think the other part of this is that I think Kanto sells in a way that I don't know how much Johto does. Johto is nostalgic,
it would
but
sell.
there's even this.
It would
What?
sell.
Why? Because of
Because-
Kanto,
No, because Johto is beloved. It was part of
but
the
it's
whole
beloved
thing.
by us as
No.
old heads.
What
was
year
part
would
of-
this come out? This would come out in 2027, right? Is that what we're saying, or 2028?
Sure, yeah,
2028.
yeah, 2028.
If it's 2028, it will have been literally
18.
19
Yeah,
years
yeah.
since the last Johto game released.
Yeah, that's it. That's
It's
all-
gonna sell for that reason alone.
That's what I was gonna get to. Exactly
yeah.
what I was gonna get to. We brought it up in the last video that we did, but like, it was just like it's been so long since we've had a Johto game, Johto themed anything. Like, sure, they've like hinted at it here and there, but it was part of Pokemania. It was not just like whatever, it was huge. So yeah, the younger generations maybe don't like it as much, but since it's been so long, I think it would sell. I think that Heart Gold Soul Silver.
I think it would sell.
Heart Gold Soul Silver.
Same as Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl.
Yeah, Heart Gold Soul Silver was enough
my
for
point
the young
here.
people.
My only point here, I think it really does matter. Like you even said it yourself. Generation 2 is in conversation. It's part of Pokemania, which is Kanto. I just think if we're going back to Johto, the emphasis can be on Johto. But I do think Kanto will be included in that in some way. What excites me is seeing Kanto in 3D.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. My only no is if it's a Legends game.
Right, exactly.
No, I think a Legends game could work. Because you have the two maps.
Anything else, a Johto sequel, a Johto, like if they said Gold 2 and Silver 2, I'd be like, Kanto's there. If they're like Heart Gold, I guess it wouldn't be Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but like some kind of true Johto remake like that, a Crystal remake, all of those, I'm like, Kanto's there.
I don't know about the Gold and Silver 2. I don't know about that. I think anything that is a remake, because that's the topic of this video, anything that's a remake, Kanto will be there. But if it is a brand new take on Johto itself, this is the perfect time for them to focus on just Johto and like flesh out Johto to make it its own region instead of being always attached to Kanto. That's the perfect time to do it. So like anything that's
a nice
new,
sentiment. That's a nice sentiment.
Especially because not only do we have Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, but guys, I mean, I think we're all kind of anticipating at least the Gen 1 games getting ported to the Switch in 2026.
True.
Hey, let's take a shot. That wasn't me.
So now you've got.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Dusty. But no, I mean, so you've got 2 Kanto. Goodness, if they port the Johto games, you've got 3 Kanto experiences. Let's let Legends Johto have Kanto sit at home.
Listen, I'm saying Johto will exist. I'm just saying Kanto would be part of that. I feel like that's a missed opportunity.
I feel like
such a missed opportunity.
But it's not a missed. It's the opposite, actually. It's a missed opportunity of money. Why would they make a Legends Johto
because
game?
Kanto sells.
I know,
Kanto sells.
I understand that, but they would want their own Legends Kanto game because they could split. They would never do 2 regions together and lose money. It's like,
I don't think they're losing
why not?
money.
They would lose money because they wouldn't make a Legends Kanto after they made a Legends Johto Kanto.
That's why I think we're going to get a Legends Kanto game that includes Johto. It'll be called Legends Mew, Legends whatever. It'll just be a combination. Legends Sinjo.
They're missing out on money.
Or what is it called? Tojo. Legends Tojo or something stupid.
The
regions literally have locations in between. I don't know. I think it's they're tied. Their DNA is tied together.
I don't know. I feel like that's just how it is now, but it doesn't have to be. There's been so many
Lumi,
times
growing
when the
up,
Pokemon company with Legends game especially has gone, oh, you're used to this? No.
Absolutely.
So many times. So I think
but I don't think there's an
when they're making a Legends Johto game, they can go, no, it's not Kanto. It's just Johto, because we're actually going to be taking Johto and expanding on it. Just like they did, they expanded the world of Sinnoh with Hisui. They're going to expand Lumio City with X and Y.
Sure.
Expanding 2 whole regions will make the game worse. Give me the one region expand.
If you think about it,
Kanto or Johto.
both Legends games that we're getting so far, they're small in retrospect to their regions. You know what I mean? Like, even Hisui was like a smaller version of Sinnoh. So
it was vaster, but more empty.
they're not gonna do 2 regions in a Legends game. I just can't see it. But
so like this is the low res map. It's the best image I could find, but of both of the regions, and this is concept art that exists. Both of these regions, Kanto and Johto, are tied together. Yeah,
we understand that. But Sinnoh's also right above Johto. We know that too anymore. So I guess Sinnoh also has to be there.
Sinnoh is very connected to Johto as well. That's what you're talking about, Tojo or whatever. That's
Sinnoh is so far north. Sinnoh is so far north. It's completely disconnected. These 2 regions are right there together. You literally walk over one little patch of grass.
There's a mountain range.
And you're there. No, there's not a mountain range.
There is. We're looking right at it.
There's a mountain range. No, but like when you start in New Bark City or whatever, New Bark Town, you literally travel 6 squares and you're in Kanto.
Gotta have surf, I think. But
Yeah.
Yes. You
but that's what I'm saying
over
is,
and
even
you
though
have
it's
and
connected,
Kanto right there.
Even though it's connected,
so
it's also pretty divided. Like they do still make a point to draw a very defined border for you.
Yeah.
If I'm imagining a Legends game,
regions.
I'm imagining a Legends game, the middle of the map is the mountainous region. You know, you have all these different maybe you have 3 biomes over here they're sprawling, and then you have a mountain range, which is its own environment. It's Mount Silver, and then you have these other locations in Kanto. I think it works together really well.
It's separated by mountain range and water.
I guess I see what you're saying. Logistically, it just might not make sense to fit all that into one game. But I feel like
I'm with Soul. I want it to be just Johto so that we can stop having Johto in conversation with Kanto, and it can be its own thing.
All of that aside,
I'd be fine with that. I do want a new Kanto game though. Regardless, I think it'd be great to see the game like.
It's so weird that
in the future, it's not weird because in the future, no, it's not weird. In the future, it's only weird that I would want it because you're thinking about all the times we've gotten remakes of Kanto. Yes. But if we don't get a normal, boring remake of Kanto, it's a good idea.
That is a possibility that they just remake it the same way. Like you're saying that it's impossible
on Switch 3.
Yeah, you're saying that it's impossible, but they already did another remake of it. Like there was a remake that was just fine, and then they did another one that was basically the same.
Yeah, but that one remake was so deliberate, and you can still buy it on Switch too. So like, my point is, if they ever go back to Kanto, it's gonna be different. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I want a Johto
game. I do want a Johto game.
Yeah, the Sevi Islands should be in whatever that Kanto version is. I think just going back to the topic, like we do need to say that Johto should be the next thing.
Yeah, it really should be.
If we're talking about 19 years since revisiting Johto, like that's
insane.
The next
it's
game.
Insulting.
It doesn't matter.
But again, I want to be clear. It's not 19
insulting.
Right now, but at the time of
this
potential release, it will be 19.
In 2020.
Yeah, we're recording this episode, and when this episode releases, it'll be 19 years.
Yeah, we're shelving this until 2028.
Because that's
how did y'all like the Gen 10 DLC, by the way?
Yeah, that's how far in advance we record these podcasts. Sorry, we didn't tell you ahead of time.
That's hilarious. But no, I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about remakes, like even remakes, it's very hard to say, like, how do we not get a Johto game next? Like, are they really going to make us wait until like 20 years, 23 years? You know, like what's the amount that they will go? Like, will we just do like a Gen 5 remake thing and then eventually get a Johto game? You know what I mean?
I think there just needs to be an opportunity in the heart. Okay. All right. If we're like blackpilling, if we're like Doomer, welcome to Doomer City. I think what could happen.
I live here.
Yeah. I think what could happen, this is something that I was yapping about whenever the last time we talked about this. I think BDSP wasn't that great, but I think if we're going to continue getting more faithful remakes, they obviously will improve. The engines will improve. Yeah. Hopefully there's more care. And I think also Johto is just a good, like Heart Gold Soul Silver is just a good game. They could port.
Great game.
Or they could make a faithful remake of Heart Gold Soul Silver. They can make a faithful remake.
For it.
They can make a faithful remake of Fire Red and Leaf Green. They can make a faithful remake of Gen 5. They can make a faithful remake of whatever else I missed. Gen 3. You know, like they could give us an HD port of, they could literally give us an HD port of that runs on Switch 2 of X and Y and of Sun and Moon. They could literally do that.
They would make money. They wouldn't make as much money though as like selling a brand new game kind of thing.
No, but they might make as much money. Mm. They might earn more money. It would have to be
more like BDSP, in my opinion.
What I'm saying is like they wouldn't be selling as many units, but like the amount of effort that goes into just porting a game is a lot different than creating a whole new game.
Yeah, we didn't even mention ports, but they're kind of like remakes too.
If I'm going to go back to the beginning, what I care about when it comes to these remakes, it's the ability to play. It's two things. It's one of the two things. It's either the ability to play an old region in a modern engine. So I can imagine that this is if I'm playing a 3D open world Gen 5 game, that's happening alongside whatever else is going on in Generation 10. Right? That's cool. I like for that immersion in my mind. That's what I like to imagine. But the other aspect of this, of remakes, that I think we're maybe overlooking, as much as we have problems with BDSP, it's still the only way certain people can play like Diamond and Pearl, the story of Diamond and Pearl,
which
right?
is depressing.
Replayability, being able to have access to these games on your modern console, right? We're older, we're getting old, and we have a collection, and we've acquired games over the years. But for people who are just getting into Pokemon just now, these remakes are an opportunity for them to revisit these old regions, right? Get familiar with the Pokemon that are in these Pokedexes, right? And that's important. I think that is important. And it's also nice for me to be able to like scoop up and play like an old game on my Switch. Right? I will really conveniently.
Okay. Everyone shut up. We have a summer sale.
And it's right here at shop.hiddenpowerpodcast.com. Some of you might know we rebranded. Not only did we rebrand all of our visual assets and our podcast art, yada, yada, yada. That's a Seinfeld reference. But we also relaunched our merch store, and to celebrate, we have over 50 items on this store that are eligible for our summer sale. That's 15% off all eligible items. But also, just go check, listen, link in the description. Just go, do me a favor. Go into the description, click the button, check out the store, because right now on the screen is what you're looking at. This store just looks gorgeous. Our buddy, our designer, our teammate, Noivi, not only did he take a bunch of sick merch store shots for the store, but he also redesigned the whole thing. It looks absolutely gorgeous. And like I said, him in the over 50 items.
First picture.
Yeah, that's him in the first picture. Over 50 items on this store have are discounted for the summer. So anyways, just want to let you know, just want to pop in here right now. Lumi did say something kind of rude earlier. You don't need to shut up.
Look, I'm just wondering why you're still here and you're not at that site looking at this beautiful merch.
If you guys, listen, look at it. If you guys want to support us, right? And you want to get some swag, right? Some dope looking clothes for the summer, some easy breezy colorways for the summer. We got it all right here. Shop.hiddenpowerpodcast.com. Links in the description. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Go
now.
I'll 100% say, I was going to say this earlier. I know Lumi hates it, but I enjoyed BDSP in the sense that I haven't played, because I don't really replay Pokemon games until a new Pokemon game comes out. So I enjoyed playing it because I hadn't played Diamond and Pearl in years.
That's nice.
Years. I liked it more than Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, because Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee was difficult for me to play with the whole controls. It's not for babies. But I really enjoyed it, and
that sounds like a skill
issue. But listen, I'm old.
It's not for babies. I can't figure it out.
It's either for babies or for old people. So,
yeah.
What I was going to say is a Gen 5 BDSP like remake, a faithful remake, for me sounds so exciting, actually, because I haven't played a Gen 5 game, especially Black 2, White 2, in so long, and I really want to. I'm so tempted to actually play the games. I don't have a Black 2, White 2. That's why I'm saying that. Like, I don't have it, and I want it so bad. But it costs like $130. So
heck yeah, it does.
So
you could port it.
Yeah, I could do it that way, but you know what I mean.
Emulate it.
Yeah.
We at the Hidden Power Podcast do not promote.
No, not at all.
I might one day, but the thing is, I have this hope in my heart that they're gonna actually do this, and I will buy a BDSP like Black and White that includes Black 2, White 2 content. I would be really happy with that, because I haven't played them in so long, and it would be a fresh take on it, in my opinion.
That's
I
the point of a
would
remake.
too, and I think that's the thing about Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, honestly, is that Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl was the first time we got that like traditional remake, like Fire Red, Heart Gold, where it was this basically 1-to-1. Like before that, there were pretty big changes. Fire Red and Leaf Green added the Sevi Islands. Heart Gold, Soul Silver added the Battle Frontier and the Pokeathlon, and Oris added Mega, and all of it included Pokemon that existed up to that point. Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl didn't do that. And so I think what really hurt me was that I had, 15 years of building up this idea in my head of what a Diamond and Pearl remake would look like based off what I'd seen so far, which was Oris, Fire Red, Leaf Green,
right.
Heart Gold, Soul
Should have been done in the Sword and Shield.
And it wasn't
style.
that,
Should have been
and
Sword and Shield, but it wasn't.
I think that's why. So I think it was an expectation versus reality thing.
Yeah, that's real. Listen,
versus with Black and White, now that we have Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and thanks to all these rumors that are suggesting it could be outsourced to a third party. My expectations for Black and White is around Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, so I will be happy with that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, but with all that being said, would I prefer it to be more like ORAS? 1,000 billion jillion %. Like I want it to be a fresh take where they remake stuff and add new forms in and all of that stuff. But if I was to get the BDSP version, I'd be happy with it. I'd be happy playing through it. Just give me like the original dragon in it as well. Just give me one new Pokemon form, one new Pokemon something.
If it's outsourced, I just don't know that they'll do it.
Yeah, I know, but still, that's just
especially the original dragon, because that's such a at this point, they even want to do that?
Too big.
Because it's like so big, maybe it's best left a mystery. Kind of like what Diglett looks like under the ground,
Yeah. And it might not be a Black and White remake. Who knows? It's just, we say that because that's what's next on the docket. Is that the right word? I don't know. But
and all the rumors too.
Yeah, and all the rumors. But
because I think I'd say Johto if it wasn't for the rumors.
But to play into what Dusty was saying, like Game Freak's been changing it up. Maybe they're just like, we'll just skip right over Black and White and we won't do it. We'll do. I still don't think it'll be X and Y because we would have just gotten this ZA. So I think it'd be like Gen 7 game or Johto, So.
Dude, imagine it's Scarlet and Violet.
Oh God. We just got that. I think we're so done with Scarlet and Violet in the sense of it's been Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
We had it for an extra year technically.
I'm having fun with it. I'm playing it right now, and it's a completely different game. It makes me appreciate it so much.
You say that, but we still have one whole year of Scarlet and Violet.
What you say on this podcast versus what you say on this Twitter gives me whiplash.
What, Soul? Yeah.
No, you.
Me?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You literally posted the day after you got your Switch 2, Scarlet and Violet are still bad games or something that.
No. That was that was the day before. Everyone was looking at review copies and just a couple screenshots, and they're saying it's a top 3 Pokemon game or the best game of all time.
Right. Oh, so you changed your mind on that?
No, I didn't. I still don't think it's a top 3 or the best Pokemon game of all time.
You can like Scarlet and Violet without gaslighting yourself.
Yes, I like Scarlet and Violet, but I'm not saying it's the best game of all time. There's way better Pokemon games.
Yeah, but it's crazy because I saw those tweets and then we got on our live last week.
You saw them a week later, yeah.
And then we got on our live and you're like, Scarlet and Violet is amazing. It looks so different. I was like,
the change is so different. The change is so different. It makes it so much more of an enjoyable game. I can appreciate it for what it is, but I don't think it's a top 3 Pokemon game. I think there's way better games. Heart Gold, Soul Silver, for me, has all the daily activities. It's cozy.
The little weekday people.
I love all that stuff. So for me, Heart Gold, Soul Silver is probably the best.
Oh man, Heart Gold, Soul Silver was peak purely for the weak people. The people who were like,
it's like,
I'm Frida,
it's a cozy
it's
game.
Friday.
Time to get your Lapras.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's but that's what that was all about. Yeah.
It's a good topic for a different episode, I'd say. We can talk about Scarlet and Violet and all of that. Sounds
well,
good.
You got to play it, Soul. You got to play it on the Switch too.
It's true, I do. I will one day, eventually.
Yeah.
When he gets
Metroid's coming out, so you gotta get it.
Bro, when are they gonna give me the release date? Give me a release date.
Yeah. So final thoughts. What final predictions? What do we think the next Pokemon game is going to be? The next remake.
Yeah.
No clue.
Next Pokemon remake.
My guess, I'm gonna say a Black and White remake that will be. I think it'll be less faithful than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Or it'll change more than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I don't expect Oris. I would put it around Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Fire Red, Leaf Green, maybe a little worse than Heart Gold, Soul Silver level of what it changes. But I do think Pokemon hears feedback, even though Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl did well, they still saw this feedback, just like Scarlet and Violet are second best Pokemon games of all time in terms of sales, but they still heard our feedback.
Yeah, they still know.
So I don't think it'll be as true as Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. I do think it won't be as big as Oris was. And I think that there is a chance they are outsourced at least to Pokemon Works. That would be my prediction.
I have to be boring and say the same thing as him because that's the realistic thing that I think. If we're talking about wish lists, that's completely different.
Yeah, we're talking.
But I do think
the show's not about being right. It's about
because we mentioned it. I do believe Legends Johto is not only next, but I also believe it will happen in Gen 10. I think we'll get Legends Johto and a Black and White remake in Gen 10.
Here's another thing. I think the reason why I'm also like pounding the Kanto drum is also I feel like something has got to be up Kanto related for the 30th year anniversary. You know?
Yeah,
Ports.
it could just be the ports. It could just be the ports.
Look, Dusty. If I may, I gotta tell you
what you always wanted.
To quote my good
I don't want
friend,
them anymore.
to quote my good friend DustyGogoat, you can like Kanto without gaslighting yourself.
It's true. You can. Listen, I played through Fire Red and Leaf Green recently, and I think it holds up. I think it's actually one of the best Pokemon games. It really is.
Nice. I've never played it.
You've never played Fire Red Leaf Green?
Nope.
No, he didn't play any Gen 3 game.
Nothing on the Game Boy Advance.
What? So what's your view of Kanto?
The original. And
the original and Let's Go.
my god, dude.
And
You gotta play Fire Red Leaf Green.
And Johto. You've seen
and Johto, yeah.
Yeah.
I played it with
but dude, you got
Silver.
wait, what?
Yeah.
You've never played Fire Red and Leaf Green?
Yes,
No.
I know, dude. This man's insane.
It's funny, actually.
How can you be on Twitter with opinions and you never played those games?
I never talk about those games. There's nothing to talk about.
Well, but they can, bro. All right, I was upset with the Ho and stuff, but you've never played Fire Red and Leaf Green.
I've never
is probably
played a
the
Gen
most
3
modern,
game.
definitive version of Kanto. I think.
Yeah,
I think the OG games are nostalgic, but they're broken and buggy and not.
I still loved them. I
love them too.
Here's the thing: I played them originally. I played them with yellow. I played them with gold and silver. I played them with heart gold and soul silver.
No, those don't count.
No, it does, dude. You just hammered us about how Kanto's a part of Johto. It absolutely counts.
No, it counts, but it's not. It doesn't count as like you're not playing through Kanto.
You are. That's a part of Johto. It's always in conversation.
Oh my gosh!
It is always in conversation, but it's not the first experience.
No, I know you're right, but you're not. You're also
no. I'm right. You should play. Soul, what are you doing like tonight? Why don't you just download?
Hey,
MG?
buddy, get in line. He has to finish Snap first.
You started it. I gotta finish it too.
I just got back from vacation like 2 days ago.
Soul, you literally could like just boot up Leaf Green and just like you'll have the time of your life. Played offline,
dude. It's worse than that. He literally has a copy of Omega Ruby in his room and hasn't played it.
I do, but that I can't stream it. I want to stream everything now. You know.
Well, you need a capture card. You need to get an emulator if you're gonna.
Yeah, it's a better experience to just play it offline.
I agree, but
that's true. Like you even said that about Snap that you thought was a better experience.
So I mean, isn't there like a little curiosity that you have? Aren't you just thinking to yourself like? 100%. Oh, I wonder what Fire Red Leaf Green is like.
Yes and no.
So why don't you like?
Yes and no at the same time.
I don't understand.
It's just Kanto again.
It's not just Kanto though. It's a completely different game.
It's really good. It's Kanto at its best in my opinion.
I was gonna say this about when Lumi was bringing up his because I'm gonna tie it back into the topic.
Bro,
here.
you're like dismissing it, but you've never played it.
No, this is important.
This is what you do with Dark Souls.
Dark Souls? What is that? What do you mean?
I'm just kidding.
Souls-like games, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it was really funny when Lumi was talking about his remake experience, like his Pokemon remake experience. Mine is kind of the opposite. So I've not played Fire Red and Leaf Green. I played Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and I haven't played Oras. and then I played BDSP. So like my only experience with remakes is kind of actually only Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Sure.
And yeah. So it's funny, it's a complete opposite of him. But nice, you know,
dude.
I still appreciate what Oras did. And I want to play Fire Red and Leaf Green.
I would just be craving it. I'd be like, oh, I can't wait to see what it's like.
It's not.
If I had a Pokemon game that I've never played, I would be so excited.
Listen, I was going to say this at the beginning, but
but it's different. Remakes, that's what the whole episode's about. They
redefine
the experience.
I know. Remakes do not capture my heart. I am actually happy without ever having another remake. I would go the Legends route 100%. Anytime that remakes,
I'm not buying it.
Anytime that remakes came out,
buying it.
I was not excited for any remakes. Really, I was always just like, I've already played it. I don't really care to play it again.
But you haven't played the Hoenn games, and you love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You hate BDSP, so that's fair if that's your only experience with remakes.
Yeah,
and you don't like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, so that also makes sense because you don't like that. But like Fire Red Leaf Green is literally like a brand new game.
Is it?
Like your Charmander? Yes, your Charmander by like Gym 1 has like metal claws.
I understand what you're saying. I'm saying that it never captured me enough to buy it. to like actually go and buy it. I was just like, I don't want to buy this.
You should play it.
Yeah, I would love to.
I think you would love it.
I'd love to.
I would just
now
be like, as a Pokemon fan,
yeah.
if I had like as a Pokemon fan, I'd be like, I need to know about this. Or as like a creator, you gotta be like, what is this thing that I'm missing? You'll be like a Kanto fan page for the next year if you play it.
If all remakes are gonna be like Brand Diamond, Shining Pearl from here on out, I am with them that I
me
would
too.
just prefer Legends games. And if you want,
ports.
Maybe every 5-10 years, go, hey, guess what's on the eShop?
Yeah.
My like Pokemon experience is just very odd. Like I told you a long time ago, my like Pokemon reawakening was like in Gen 7, and I have super nostalgia for it. Since Gen 7 on, that's like when I've been like a crazy Pokemon fan.
Okay,
like,
so
before
that,
all
the remakes have sucked since.
Yeah, true. But before that,
so, like,
I was only a crazy Pokemon fan as a child. Like when I was a kid, I was like, this is the best thing ever. But from that block in between, even in Black and White time, like I played it, but I wasn't like crazy about it. I didn't even barely finish Black 2, White 2. So like, and that's why I don't own it. I don't have it. Like I played it from a friend. So it's just like stuff like that. I wasn't as hardcore of a Pokemon fan at that time. After Gen 7, it happened.
When I replay games now, I find things to post on Twitter because I'm like, this could be a theory. This is a connection with something that we know now. Oh, I didn't even know this was in the game. No one's talking about this. Like, it's so much fun to play old games, you know?
So Soul, you say that you have remakes just don't excite you, which is totally valid. I get that.
Yeah.
July 22nd, we're getting a Pokemon Presents. They show us the ZA news and all, and then they go, we have one more thing to show you. Boom. True Sun and Moon remakes.
Oh, he'll
What's
be
happening?
freaking out.
I probably wouldn't be that excited. What do you mean
Bro,
true?
You're lying.
What do you mean
you're
true?
Lying to our face.
What do you mean true?
Right now.
No,
like,
I'm
not Legends,
you're
not
lying,
Legends,
bro.
but like it'll be like Fire Red, Leaf Green, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, possibly Brand Diamond, Shining Pearl. It's the first trailer, so we won't really know.
Listen,
but remakes for Sun and Moon.
It's like I said.
You wouldn't be excited for a remake of Sun and Moon?
I am very much a Pokemon fanatic right now in this point. You know, so I would buy it no matter what at this point. But
you wouldn't be excited. What
I'm
are you
not that
looking
excited for. I like new stuff. I want new.
Oh, sure.
I am like
I get that.
Gen 10 hype has got me to the sky. Even Legends.
Yeah, but like once you get the game,
there could
like, aren't you excited to play the game?
Yeah, if there's new stuff, then I'm so.
But we wouldn't know. It's the first trailer. Like they just kind of announce it. They're just like, it's happening.
I would be hyped, but I would also be.
Soul would be like, I love.
I would.
Trigger Cosmos is back, baby!
Oh my god, it's the best game in the world! I can't believe this is happening. This is my dream game.
No, it's not my dream. It's not my dream game, but I would be hyped about that.
No, I'm not believing you.
Remakes just don't inspire joy for me. I don't know because I just there's not. Yeah, there's not everything new like I want.
Yeah, I guess that does track with what you said in the past. Like you just don't play a lot of games, so
yeah,
or like you don't.
I'm gonna timestamp this part of the video.
I feel like
is a bad person.
I feel like you enjoy, like you're like trying to enjoy the fandom or like all the extra stuff around the game, but I feel like you don't really care about like a playthrough.
Not as much. A lot of times I'm like struggling. Sometimes I love my original playthrough. I just don't replay. This is a lot of information, but like what I do is I would just have played through the whole thing and then that's it. That was my adventure. You know, I didn't. I don't like restarting
I'm
it.
Trying to play them constantly.
No, I don't like restarting it and erasing all my Pokemon forever.
I'm with Soul on that, but not on the like. I have not restarted Scarlet and Violet. I don't know if I will restart Scarlet and Violet. If I do, it'll be like long after Gen 10 when I'm nostalgic for it. But
I have a new save on Violet, but I'm not deleting Scarlet.
Yeah, but like, and I was the same way with Sword and Shield. I do not restart my games either, but I do still get excited for a remake because it's usually been long enough to where I do want to return, and it's even better because it's at least a different return. Like even Brand Diamond, Shining Pearl. In my opinion, it was a worse experience, but it was a different experience.
New Legends. Yeah, it was a new experience. Also, like most remakes give you access to like old Pokemon or give you new forms, right? Mm-hmm. And also, I think something that I appreciate is I like to see the glow ups that the trainers have. All those like updates to the region, to the gyms, to all these like special locations to make. Yeah, I was talking to Jake and I realized Scarlet and Violet sucks because like there's no memorable biomes, and the ones that are memorable performed horribly.
Yeah, we do know that.
Or they just look horrible.
Yeah, the only memorable ones are the
Sakura Trail, the little bamboo area.
Yeah.
That's like
in Fire Red and Leaf Green, mostly in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Oraz. All of these locations that are like significant are now visually memorable. You know, so that's why I enjoy remakes. But I think where we're coming down on this is like that's just of like times past. Like the modern, you know what? Literally, I want to play Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee again because I do think they actually like visually enhanced the locations and reinterpreted the locations in Kanto. They're still 2D, they're still top down, but they are
that, like the colors
Erica's
of each city are a bit more unique, so they kind of give the cities a bit more identity.
The game looked great.
The game is
even when you were showing
probably the prettiest Pokemon game.
Yeah, even when you were showing us the screenshots earlier, I was like, I gotta buy this game back. I've been wanting to buy it again to actually play it again.
Damn, this is crazy. This is breaking news. Soul is willing to replay Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee before he plays Fire Red or any Hoenn game for the first time.
There's also a thing with me that like I want to like I don't know.
I think you like the hype of the new stuff.
Yes, 100%.
But it's fun to go back, and then it's like no one else is competing with you.
Yeah,
like you can dig into it and feel like you're like, oh, I feel like a genius.
I just
no one's seen this little thing. No one's talked about this since 20 years ago during a Birdkeeper Toby video.
Right. I just like to have space in between things too. Like I like a lot of space. Like I'll play a Pokemon game for months because I just like to be in it for that long. And since Legends ZA,
that's fair.
Since Legends ZA is coming up, I'm like
4 months.
That's the one I want now. Like that's what I want to play. Playing like a Pokemon game now feels like it's going to be too soon, and I'm going to run into another Pokemon game.
It's really not.
I will say Legends ZA. Legends ZA is a very different experience. I'm assuming. So
I think you're going to play Legends ZA, and you're going to be like, "Where's Gen 10?"
Yeah, probably.
So I would just say start a game. Wait, did you ever finish your X and Y game?
I didn't because of freaking. No, that's not my fault. I really
know how we're not even doing the episode anymore.
I know. I really want to finish that, but yes, we probably should finish the episode.
So you guys predict Gen 5 remakes.
And for me, I'm thinking, I don't know about Soul, but I'm thinking also Legends Johto. We did mention Legends games, so I want to throw that out there.
I don't know about that, but something Legends or something Johto, sorry.
Yeah,
Johto.
that is kind of a thing. Like I feel pretty confident that we will get like more Legends games. That seems to be successful.
That can be our next episode because I don't know about that.
Future Legends games.
I mean, and you've got Toby's little theory about the starter Pokemon with the Legends games.
that is nice.
We should definitely do that.
Ones for that.
That could be like the next part of this episode because I think
nice.
A genius thing
but I also don't think it would ever limit how many future Legends games we get.
No, it wouldn't. They would then go on to a new trio, but I think the idea is they want to complete this trio. Because you think if there's a Legends game each generation, then by the time they've finished this trio, like this 3 regions, there will also now be 3 more regions to play around with, and now you can take from, the Paldean starters, the Gen 10 starters, and the Galar starters.
I think the theory breaks though, because I don't think that the Legends ZA starters are going to get regional forms. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't think that necessarily makes it break, though, because to Game Freak internally, you're just thinking giving these Pokemon something, whether it's a new evolution, whether it's a new form, whether it's a new, I think they even see, like, if they were to give them, if it was Legends Galar, they'd give them G-Max forms,
Sure. Yeah. I'm going to predict... I don't know. I don't know what the next... I honestly would be happy with, like... I think what I want is just a true classic remake. I think we're overdue. I think a lot of people have let the dream die. But I'm willing to make... I'm in the bargaining phase right now of Pokemon remakes. I'm in the bargaining phase where I'm like, give me HD ports. Give me ports. Give me... just give me HD remakes, faithful remakes, whatever you want to call it. Give me the cheapest thing possible for a remake so I can replay the game on my Switch 2 and get my money's worth. But hopefully, even if it's just once every 10 years, give us like a full scale I want to return to a region and see it in the full glory of an open world game, right? Of the modern engine. And I think Unova has a lot of potential because of all the mysteries and the locations and the biomes that are available to it. I think it would be such a vast region. They could add to it. Oh, it would be so great.
Like I guess imagine you're talking about Unova's potential for open world. I always
Johto
think
too.
about Galar's potential for open world, because like that was their stepping into it, and they're like, we'll give you one open world area, but like, and even the routes you can usually see like way beyond it. You just can't go to it. I feel like that would be a solid open world remake.
Mm-hmm. I think if we got that, it would. I think Galar feels so great because it's linear, and if it was actually open world, it wouldn't feel as special.
Well, they'd have to. They'd certainly have to amp up the plot stuff too, because the story of Galar was certainly a little lackluster.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Listen, let us know in the comments what Pokemon remake you want next, and what remake you think we're gonna receive next. I think it really is up in the air. We don't really have a lot of information. We got a Pokemon Presents coming up sooner than later. Anyways, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching. We are independent. If you guys want to support, if you want more content, we have new Secret Power episodes right now available to Patreon and YouTube channel supporters. Links are in the top of the description. Click it, $5, sign up, and you get you'll unlock all, like, we have a whole back catalog of additional conversation, interviews, everything. Yeah, we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.